The ocean has always been a realm of endless fascination and profound mystery. Covering over 70% of our planet, its vast, unfathomable depths harbour secrets that stretch back millions of years. Secrets that defy logic and challenge the boundaries of scientific understanding. From ghost ships drifting silently through fog to inexplicable phenomena that baffle even the most seasoned explorers, the sea's eerie enigmas are as deep and vast as the waters themselves. Beneath the waves lie stories of vanished crews, impossible sightings, and underwater anomalies that continue to captivate and unsettle those who dare to explore them. Each ripple on the surface could conceal a truth waiting to be unravelled, a riddle whispered by the tides, or a warning from the dark abyss below. In this exploration, we delve into the most baffling and haunting maritime mysteries that have stumped experts and scientists for generations. These are not mere tales of folklore or legend. They are documented occurrences and tangible enigmas that defy conventional explanation. Ships vanish without a trace, strange lights flicker over endless waters, and ancient structures lie submerged, hidden from human eyes yet pulsing with untold stories. The Bermuda Triangle. The Bermuda Triangle remains one of the most baffling and enduring enigmas on Earth, a place where the boundaries between science and the unknown blur with alarming regularity. Stretching between Miami, Bermuda and Puerto Rico, this expanse of ocean has been the site of hundreds of puzzling disappearances, untraceable accidents, and stories that elude even the most advanced scientific reasoning. Central to the lore is the case of Flight 19, which vanished on December 5, 1945. A squadron of 5 experienced US Navy Avenger torpedo bombers on a training mission encountered navigational confusion, with radio transmissions suggesting compass failure and a loss of orientation. The pilots reported they couldn't recognize landmarks or determine their location, despite flying over a familiar training route. Their last messages indicated increasing panic and confusion, and then silence followed, total, unexplained, and permanent. Even more bizarrely, the rescue plane sent to search for them, a Martin PBM Mariner with 13 crew members, also vanished, never sending a distress call. No wreckage from either the squadron or the rescue mission was ever found, cementing this case as a chilling cornerstone of Bermuda Triangle lore. Equally perplexing is the 1963 disappearance of the SS Marine Sulphur Queen, a 524-foot tanker transporting molten sulphur with 39 crew members aboard. The vessel departed from Beaumont, Texas, and was last heard from near the Florida Straits, after which it completely vanished. Despite weeks of extensive search operations, not a single piece of conclusive debris was recovered. The tanker's cargo, molten sulphur, is highly detectable, yet it left no trace in the sea. Investigators were confounded, as weather conditions were favourable and no SOS was ever received. Similarly, in the late 1940s, 2 British passenger aircraft, the Star Tiger and the Star Ariel, both disappeared while flying over the triangle in clear weather, with no distress calls or evidence of mechanical issues. These were commercial flights with multiple passengers, and yet, like so many before and after, they simply ceased to exist. The calm conditions during their final transmissions ruled out weather as a factor, adding a surreal dimension to their loss. Beyond these headline cases lies a continuous stream of lesser-known yet equally disturbing events. There have been reports of ships found abandoned without their crews, such as the Carroll A. Deering in 1921, a schooner discovered aground off the coast of North Carolina. The ship's crew was gone, but meals were set on the table and everything appeared orderly, as if they had suddenly vanished mid-activity. No signs of struggle, no logs or clues, just an empty vessel, haunting and inexplicable. Numerous other incidents involve small private planes, fishing boats and cargo ships vanishing in good weather, often after reporting equipment malfunctions or strange atmospheric conditions. Compasses are known to behave erratically in the triangle, spinning without settling or pointing in completely inaccurate directions. While magnetic anomalies have been offered as a potential explanation, they do not fully account for the simultaneous failures of multiple instruments, the breakdown of communication systems, or the fact that modern GPS-equipped craft have also been affected. These occurrences persist even in the era of satellites and global tracking, adding another layer of mystery. In multiple cases, pilots and sailors have described entering areas where the sky appears unusually dark or the sea turns unnaturally calm, accompanied by an oppressive silence and a sensation of time distortion. There are accounts of aircraft flying through what seem like tunnels or cloud rings, after which time appears to have jumped forward inexplicably, or navigational systems become unresponsive. Others have reported abrupt drops in temperature and overwhelming feelings of confusion or fear without a clear cause. Radar systems suddenly fail, planes disappear from air traffic controllers' screens, and ships that were being tracked visually and electronically simply blink out of existence. Further adding to the triangle's strangeness are eyewitness reports of unidentified flying objects and strange lights in the sky or beneath the sea. Pilots have spoken of glowing orbs pacing their aircraft, while sailors have reported luminous shapes darting under their ships at incredible speeds. Submarine crews have picked up low-frequency hums, mechanical in nature but without any known source, emanating from the ocean floor. These sounds are not consistent with known geological activity or marine life and remain unexplained to this day. Some claim to have seen beams of light shooting from the ocean into the sky, while others mention brief but intense oral hallucinations, such as hearing voices or whispers, particularly when travelling through specific coordinates in the triangle. The mysteries extend below the surface as well. The ocean floor beneath the Bermuda Triangle is among the most complex and least explored regions on Earth, with the Puerto Rico Trench, one of the deepest parts of the Atlantic Ocean, running through it. This trench and surrounding topography feature underwater ridges, cliffs and caves that could potentially hide entire ships and planes. Strong undersea currents could carry wreckage far from the point of disappearance, making recovery nearly impossible. And yet, the absence of debris or bodies in so many cases raises the unsettling possibility that some events in the triangle involve forces or events we simply do not understand. Methane hydrate eruptions have also been proposed. Sudden releases of methane gas could reduce water density and cause ships to lose buoyancy and sink instantly. However, no direct methane-related sinking has ever been conclusively tied to any triangle case. It is also crucial to consider the reports of crew behaviour during some incidents, which suggest phenomena that go beyond natural explanation. In certain cases, crews are believed to have abandoned ship or veered off course without rational cause. The 1978 disappearance of pilot Frederick Valentich over the Bass Strait, though not in the Bermuda Triangle, is often cited as a parallel case. He reported an object hovering over his plane, followed by engine failure, before he vanished without a trace. In the Bermuda Triangle, similarly eerie recordings and last communications hint at panic, incoherent speech, or sudden silence, sometimes mid-sentence. There are also stories of survivors, few though they are, who described shifting skies, walls of water, or aircraft instruments freezing despite fully operational systems just moments before. Even historical accounts suggest that the Triangle's reputation for mystery predates the 20th century. Indigenous Caribbean peoples avoided the region, describing it as cursed. Early European explorers, including Christopher Columbus, documented strange lights and erratic compass readings while crossing the same waters. Columbus noted a great flame of fire crashing into the sea and his compass going haywire, well before the concept of magnetic deviation was understood. Such records suggest that the anomalies associated with the Bermuda Triangle are not new, but have been present for centuries, predating advanced technology and radar. As for scientific efforts to decode the triangle, many have been inconclusive or outright dismissive. Experts point to human error, poor training, and bad weather as frequent causes of maritime and aviation accidents. It's true that the region lies within a heavily trafficked corridor prone to tropical storms and hurricanes, but that explanation does little to clarify the disappearances that occur in calm weather, during daytime, and with experienced crews. Nor does it explain why distress calls often fail to go through, or why physical debris is often completely absent even after weeks of searching. In other parts of the world, accidents leave behind wreckage, oil slicks, black boxes, or personal items, but the Triangle often gives nothing back. Speculative theories continue to proliferate, and while many are easily dismissed, some remain tantalizing. These include magnetic vortexes, temporal anomalies, and dimensional rifts, suggesting that the Bermuda Triangle could be a window into another realm or a junction point where natural laws momentarily collapse. More imaginative accounts link the disappearances to Atlantis, proposing that remnants of ancient energy sources buried beneath the sea interfere with modern technology. Others invoke extraterrestrial intervention, suggesting that the triangle may be a zone of interest for alien entities, explaining the precision and suddenness of certain vanishings. While mainstream science rejects these ideas due to lack of evidence, the sheer volume of unresolved incidents keeps these theories alive in public consciousness and popular media. The psychological impact of the Bermuda Triangle is also part of its enduring mystery. The combination of real disappearances, survivor testimony, and the dramatic flair of fiction and documentary storytelling has created a modern mythos that resists debunking. People want answers, but they also want wonder. The ocean is vast, deep, and mostly unexplored, and the triangle sits at the edge of that mystery. Even in an age dominated by satellites, sonar, and artificial intelligence, the triangle continues to claim lives and craft legends, untouched by our thirst for understanding. Its waters remain eerily quiet after a plane falls from the sky or a ship never arrives. The fact that so many cases are left unresolved, with no trace of metal, oil, or human remains, turns each incident into a puzzle missing not just a few pieces, but the entire picture. The Bermuda Triangle doesn't just hide wreckage, it hides the very mechanisms of loss, defying logic, weather reports, radar logs, and everything in between. The Mary Celeste. The Mary Celeste remains one of the greatest unsolved maritime mysteries in history, a story wrapped in silence, shadows, and the empty sea. Discovered adrift in the Atlantic Ocean in December 1872, the ship appeared eerily untouched by disaster, floating without a soul aboard, her sails partially unfurled, her hull intact, her cargo untouched. Yet the crew, the captain, his wife, and their young daughter had all vanished without explanation. The image of a ghost ship sailing alone, meals left half-prepared in the galley, personal effects untouched, and valuable items unlooted, has seared itself into nautical lore and popular imagination. For over 150 years, countless theories have attempted to explain what forced a seasoned captain like Benjamin Briggs to abandon a perfectly seaworthy vessel. And yet, despite every effort, the truth remains as elusive as the missing lifeboat. When the Canadian brig DEI Greater encountered the Mary Celeste near the Azores, it was immediately clear that something was wrong. There were no signs of struggle, no signs of violence, and no signs of panic. The ship was not waterlogged, nor damaged by storm or collision. Her logbook, last updated just over a week earlier, described nothing out of the ordinary: calm seas, routine navigation, and no mention of illness, rebellion, or danger. The captain's cabin remained undisturbed. His instruments, clothes, and even his child's toys were still there. And yet, every living person had vanished. The crew of the DEI Greater, hardened sailors themselves, were so unnerved by the sight that they hesitated to board. When they finally did, they were baffled. The lifeboat was missing, suggesting the crew had left voluntarily. But why? The ship was in good condition and still under partial sail, moving slowly but steadily. The hold still contained all 1,701 barrels of denatured alcohol it had set out with, although later inspections revealed that 9 barrels were mysteriously empty, leading some to speculate about a chemical leak. Yet no one could determine why the lifeboat had been launched, especially without distress signals or urgent log entries. The sheer absence of evidence has given rise to a cascade of unsettling possibilities. One theory, perhaps the most rational on the surface, suggests that fumes from the ship's cargo, a highly volatile form of industrial alcohol, may have leaked and filled the hold with an invisible explosive vapour. It's been posited that the crew, detecting this danger, may have feared an imminent explosion. Without time to fully understand the threat or the means to contain it, they may have chosen to temporarily abandon ship. If they believed the vessel was about to erupt in flame, lowering the lifeboat and tethering it at a safe distance would have seemed the only prudent course of action. But if the rope snapped or was never secured properly, the Mary Celeste could have drifted away faster than they could catch her, leaving the crew stranded in open water with no hope of rescue. This theory is haunting because it paints a picture not of supernatural horror, but of a small, desperate misjudgment in the face of unseen danger, one that may have left an entire family and crew to vanish beneath the waves. Yet the vessel bore no burn marks, no soot, no scorching, no explosion, only the vague scent of alcohol and 9 barrels that contained nothing. Could panic have gripped even a captain as composed as Briggs based solely on smell and speculation? The suggestion seems plausible but not conclusive. Others have blamed the weather, rogue waves, waterspouts, or sudden microstorms. Perhaps a freak natural event rocked the ship violently, sweeping crew overboard and damaging the rigging just enough to prompt evacuation. But again, the ship showed no such trauma. The deck was dry, the sails were in good condition, the galley still held recent meals. A storm powerful enough to scare off a crew would surely have left its mark. A waterspout might have sent a column of water down through the deck, but there was no damage consistent with such a strike. Some point to sudden seismic sea waves, known to occur in tectonically active regions like the Azores, as a possible factor, but no quake was recorded in the time frame surrounding the Mary Celeste's abandonment. Even then, it remains unclear why an experienced seaman would flee a ship that was not in immediate peril. More outlandish explanations have only deepened the mystery. Pirates were quickly ruled out, there was no theft, no violence, and the cargo remained. Mutiny? No signs of struggle. No evidence the crew turned on each other or the captain. The ship's papers were mostly intact and valuables were untouched. Some have suggested Captain Briggs staged the disappearance himself for reasons unknown, perhaps to start a new life or commit insurance fraud. But he was known for his integrity. His crew were all hand-picked, and there was no evidence to suggest premeditation. Others have floated the possibility of sea monsters or giant squids, beasts of the deep rising from the abyss to drag the crew into the ocean. These tales live more comfortably in the pages of Gothic fiction than forensic reports, yet they speak to the primal fear the case evokes. Still more fanciful theories suggest alien abduction, or that the Mary Celeste passed into some invisible rift or dimensional anomaly, ideas that fall outside the realm of verifiable science but capture the imagination precisely because the case defies simple categorization. There's something almost theatrical in how the mystery of the Mary Celeste presents itself. A ship drifting silently across the Atlantic, ghost-like in its motion, its human stories vanished, its mechanical elements untouched. A frozen moment in time with no witnesses, no conclusion, and no sense of closure. Even the salvage hearing in Gibraltar became a stage for drama. Despite the DEI Gracia crew's clear innocence, officials were suspicious. Rumours of conspiracy and collusion swirled, though none were proven. The salvage award was reduced due to suspicions that could never be substantiated. The crew of the Mary Celeste was never found. No wreckage of the lifeboat was ever recovered. Not a single body surfaced. They had, for all practical purposes, evaporated from the face of the earth, leaving only questions in their wake. What makes the Mary Celeste truly unsettling is not just what we know, but what we don't. We can reconstruct her route, analyse her logs, and pore over the conditions of her discovery. But the central act, the moment the crew chose to leave, remains hidden. There is no voice from the past, no testimony, no final entry that says we had no choice. All we have is an abandoned deck and a vast indifferent sea. In the years that followed, the story only grew in myth and mystery. Sensationalized accounts added layers of fiction, reports of bloodstains, of meals half-eaten, of sabres on the deck, all invented. The real Mary Celeste was haunting enough without these embellishments. Her emptiness was her power. She became the archetype of the ghost ship, not because she was haunted by phantoms, but because she was haunted by silence. Even in the modern age, the mystery remains unresolved. Maritime experts, scientists, and historians continue to offer theories grounded in reason, yet none account for every detail. The ship's condition contradicts panic. The missing people defy physics. If the crew died at sea, why did the lifeboat never wash ashore? Why did no other ships see them? Why was there no distress signal? The Atlantic is vast, but ships and lifeboats do not simply vanish in good weather without leaving behind even a scrap of wood or a floating oar. These inconsistencies keep the Mary Celeste alive in our collective psyche, not as a solved case, but as a riddle that resists time. She's not just a piece of nautical history, she's a ghost in the archive, a chapter in maritime lore that refuses to close. The Baltic Sea Anomaly. The Baltic Sea Anomaly remains one of the most captivating underwater enigmas of the modern era, a silent colossus resting deep beneath the waves of the Baltic Sea, defying categorization, logic, and explanation. discovered in June 2011 by the Swedish Oceanex diving team during a routine treasure hunting expedition. The object immediately challenged scientific conventions. At a depth of 92 meters, the sonar scans revealed a massive, disc-shaped formation roughly 60 meters in diameter, resting eerily on the seabed like a forgotten relic of the unknown. It wasn't just the sheer scale that startled observers. It was the striking symmetry, the defined edges, the step-like terraces, the curious central dome or pillar, and the overall geometric clarity that seemed too deliberate, too intentional to be a coincidence of natural geology. From the first grainy sonar image, the anomaly took on the aura of mystery, a structure that seemed less like an accidental rock and more like an artifact. A smooth circular top, angular walls, what appeared to be ramps or staircases, each element fueled further questions. What was this formation? A geological fluke? A long-lost ruin? Or something far stranger, perhaps not of this earth? These questions, unanswered to this day, form the heart of the anomaly's enduring mystery. From the outset, the anomaly sparked a global storm of speculation. Scientists, theorists, and the public alike were pulled into the riddle, each sonar scan adding more intrigue, each new dive failing to resolve the basic puzzle. How did this thing come to rest on the ocean floor? And why did it look so unlike anything else in the region? While the Baltic Sea is no stranger to shipwrecks, ancient ruins, and submerged history, nothing had ever appeared in such a mechanical architectural form. The Oceanex team undertook further dives, deploying underwater ROVs and high-definition imaging equipment, but what they found deepened the mystery rather than resolving it. The object was unlike surrounding seabed formations, marked by deliberate-looking cuts, right angles, and surface patterns that evoked human or possibly non-human craftsmanship. In several places, features resembled staircases or entryways. In others, the material appeared to reflect light as if metallic, not merely stone. More bizarrely, the area immediately surrounding the anomaly was described as nearly sterile. No fish, no plants, no marine crustaceans. In a sea teeming with life, the zone around the anomaly was unnaturally quiet, clean, and dead. There were no thick sediment layers, no coral growth, no signs that this structure had been resting for millennia. This lifeless ring around the object added an unspoken unease. Something was off, and no one could quite say what. Speculation only intensified when reports surfaced of malfunctioning electronics near the anomaly. The Oceanex team claimed that some of their equipment, sonar, satellite phones, and even underwater cameras, failed or experienced interference when approaching the structure. While skeptics dismissed these claims as coincidental or exaggerated, the combination of electromagnetic anomalies, geometric features, and marine silence gave rise to increasingly exotic hypotheses. Could it be a sunken Nazi war machine, a remnant of an underwater base from World War II? Could it be the remnants of an ancient civilization now buried under the waves? A prehistoric monument akin to an underwater Stonehenge, lost to rising seas? Or more sensationally, could it be the wreckage of an alien craft? Perhaps crash-landed, partially embedded in the seabed, eroded by time but still recognizable as something made, not born. Geologists were quick to counter with natural explanations. Some proposed that the anomaly was a glacial deposit from the Ice Age, shaped into odd formations through thousands of years of geological pressure, erosion, and movement. Others suggested it was a pillow basalt formation, volcanic rock moulded under extreme underwater conditions. Yet none of these explanations satisfactorily accounted for the symmetry, the sharp angles, the steps, or the presence of what appeared to be carved lines and protrusions. More confusing still, the anomaly seemed to be raised above the seabed on a kind of base or pillar, giving the impression of elevation, of design. Geologic forces can do strange things, but the anomaly lacked comparables elsewhere on the Baltic seafloor. It was a solitary formation, unaccompanied by similar volcanic rock or glacial fragments nearby. For every scientific explanation, a counterpoint emerged. It was too smooth, too isolated, too specific. Why were its features so deliberate? Why did nothing grow on it? Why, above all, was it there, unaccompanied by any other known formations of its kind? Some theories turned to archaeology. Could the anomaly be a megalithic site similar in purpose to Göbekli Tepe or submerged ruins off the coast of India or Japan? If so, who built it and when? The floor of the Baltic Sea has yielded many ancient artifacts, including Stone Age tools and submerged settlements, indicating that the land was once dry before glacial melting raised sea levels. Could the anomaly be the last remnant of a coastal society now erased by water and time? Others proposed it might be a defensive structure, an altar, or even a ritual site. Yet the precision of its lines and its immense size strained the limits of known ancient engineering and the absence of associated relics. Tools, carvings, bones left such interpretations purely speculative. On the fringe, the theories grew more fantastic. The object's disc shape, domed centre, and peculiar positioning made it, for some, an obvious candidate for a crashed UFO. Internet forums, TV shows, and speculative documentaries pushed the idea that this was not stone at all, but a camouflaged hull, metallic and hollow inside. Perhaps it had crashed thousands of years ago, lying dormant on the seafloor. This theory, of course, found little support among scientists, but it thrived in the vacuum of conclusive data. The anomaly's silence, its refusal to yield clear answers, was the perfect breeding ground for mystery. The Swedish government and navy offered minimal comment, and occasional reports hinted at restricted investigations or classified sonar scans, only fueling the suspicion that something extraordinary was being concealed. Why the secrecy? Why the reluctance for open exploration? Despite over a decade since its discovery, the anomaly remains largely unstudied at close range. Harsh weather, the cost of deep-sea missions, and the murky politics of Baltic waters have prevented comprehensive excavation or sampling. Ocean X has released limited imagery, but clear, high-resolution video or physical samples have yet to be fully analysed or peer-reviewed in public forums. Every delay, every vague report reinforces the sense that something lies just beneath understanding, just beyond reach. Even today, no one can say for certain what the anomaly is, only what it is not. It is not a common rock formation, it is not a shipwreck, it is not a known natural outcrop. It is not alive, but neither is it completely dead. It exists in limbo, a puzzle half-drawn, beckoning the curious and maddening the rational. The Baltic Sea anomaly also raises philosophical and scientific questions beyond its physical form. How much of our oceans remain unmapped, misunderstood, or completely unknown? The seafloor, with its vast expanses of darkness and pressure, conceals more than just geological formations. It may hold the records of civilizations, the debris of cosmic events, or the leftovers of technologies we've yet to imagine. If the anomaly is artificial, who made it and why? If it is natural, why does it mimic the artificial so convincingly? The anomaly becomes a mirror, reflecting our hopes, fears, and imaginations. It is a Rorschach test for belief, proof for some of ancient astronauts, for others of human history lost to time, and for still others of nature's strange fractal hand. The ghost ships of the Arctic. The ghost ships of the Arctic are among the most chilling and enigmatic maritime mysteries known to humankind. Silent vessels adrift or frozen in the ice, their crews vanished, their decks abandoned, and their purpose swallowed by the vast, merciless expanse of the polar north. These are not the shattered remnants of shipwrecks, not mere wreckage rusting in forgotten bays, but intact hulks, preserved by the cryonic touch of Arctic temperatures, lingering in eerie stillness as though time itself had paused on their timbers. Across centuries of exploration, from the age of wooden-hulled brigs to the steam-powered vessels of later eras, the Arctic has quietly accumulated its share of these nautical phantoms, each one a story without an ending, a question etched in ice. The most well-known among them are the HMS Erebus and HMS Terror, the doomed ships of Sir John Franklin's 1845 expedition to discover the Northwest Passage. Setting out with over 100 men and the full confidence of the British Admiralty, the two ships soon became trapped in the pack ice near King William Island, never to return. More than a century passed before their ghostly silhouettes were found, lying in the frozen depths with their hulls astonishingly intact, eerily preserved in Arctic stillness. No signs of violence or catastrophe were evident on the ships themselves. No fire, no cannon blast, no scuttling, just two mighty vessels frozen mid-journey, as if awaiting the return of crews long lost to time. The remains of the men, found scattered in shallow graves, skeletal, starved, some bearing signs of desperation, only deepened the sense of unknowable tragedy. What began as a mission of imperial pride and scientific advancement ended as an unrelenting mystery, a slow-motion vanishing sealed beneath ice and silence. But Franklin's expedition is only the most publicized chapter in a saga of polar absences that stretches across the centuries. Countless other ships, often lesser known, have joined the Arctic's spectral fleet, found drifting or encased in ice, their crews inexplicably gone. In some cases, the logs end abruptly. In others, meals remain untouched on the tables, cargo remains perfectly stowed, and personal effects lie undisturbed, as if their owners had simply stepped out and never returned. Unlike traditional shipwrecks in more temperate waters, these ghost ships often lack visible damage. Their masts may still stand, their decks may remain orderly, and yet there is no life aboard. Some are fishing vessels discovered with their holds full of catch but without a single soul aboard, while others are merchant or exploratory ships last seen months, or even decades, before they reappeared as drifting tombs of ice and wood. In the bitter extremes of the Arctic, these hulks can remain preserved for generations, perfectly suspended between decay and endurance. And every time one is discovered, the questions return: where did the crew go? Why was the ship abandoned? What circumstances could compel seafarers trained and resilient to desert their vessel in the midst of an unforgiving environment where leaving the ship often meant death? The causes remain elusive, layered in natural hazard, human frailty, and the intangible influence of the unknown. The Arctic is a realm of relentless cold and disorienting vastness, where the sun vanishes for months and ice can shift, splinter, and imprison without warning. Ice floes can grip a hull with the force of hydraulic vices, crushing ships slowly and silently. Storms arise out of blue sky, sudden and absolute. In these conditions, even a minor navigational error or mechanical failure can spell doom. But what makes the ghost ships so unsettling is not merely that they are casualties of the polar environment, it is that they are silent casualties, with no screams, no distress calls, no flares, and, in many cases, no bodies. Their abandonment is often so sudden and total that it seems almost surgical, almost unnatural. In some sightings, ships were found days after their last known location with their lifeboats missing, implying deliberate evacuation, and yet no wreckage of those smaller boats, no footprints in the snow, no frozen forms on the ice, were ever recovered. They simply disappeared. Woven through this historical reality is a spectral thread of the inexplicable. Reports from Arctic explorers and indigenous Inuit communities speak of strange lights moving across the ice, of shimmering shapes in the sky, and of sounds that have no source. Metallic droning, whispered voices, or thunderous crashes heard from beneath the ice. Some search parties who ventured to investigate these derelict ships described compasses that spun without settling, lanterns extinguishing without cause, and an atmosphere that was oppressively still, charged with something unspoken. Indigenous oral traditions from the Arctic Circle include tales of spirits that guard the ice, punishing those who venture too far or show disrespect to the natural order. Whether these tales are cautionary folklore or rooted in real, unexplained events is impossible to determine, but they lend a chilling resonance to the image of the ghost ship, adrift not just in water, but in another realm entirely. Scientific efforts have tried to unravel the more grounded aspects of these mysteries. Analysis of remains recovered from wreck sites has revealed signs of scurvy, lead poisoning from improperly sealed canned goods, and hypothermia, all plausible causes of death in the brutal Arctic winter. Yet even these explanations fall short. Why would trained crews, naval men, and seasoned Arctic sailors abandon solid ships for the frozen wilderness, where survival was mathematically improbable? Why, in case after case, did the logs go silent in moments of apparent calm? Some theorize that thick fog or polar darkness disorients even the most experienced seamen, leading to poor decisions. Others point to psychological stress, months of isolation, starvation, the effects of the long night on mental health. These forces may have caused mutinies, breakdowns, or group panic that led to deadly decisions. But still, the neatness of the abandonments, the quietness of the scenes, the lack of violence or disarray resists a tidy answer. It's as though the crew simply melted away, leaving their ship behind like a relic left on a frozen altar. Adding another dimension to this eerie phenomenon is the recurring theme of ships discovered long after they were presumed lost, still afloat, drifting aimlessly. In 1931, the Beichimo, a steam-powered cargo vessel, was trapped by early ice and abandoned by her crew off the Alaskan coast. Yet for the next 38 years, she was repeatedly spotted floating intact, sometimes boarded but never recovered. Each sighting rekindled her legend, as if she had become something more than a ship, something untethered from normal time. She became, quite literally, a ghost on the water, and she is not alone. The Arctic, with its slow pace of decay and extreme preservation, creates the perfect theatre for such hauntings, where time stands still and memory freezes in place. These ships become not just ruins, but memorials, silent and intact, repositories of vanished intent. These ghost ships also embody the conflict between human ambition and the brutal reality of nature. Many were part of national quests to chart unknown waters, claim new territories, or open trade routes. They carried dreams as well as cargo, aspirations of empire and progress, only to be humbled by a cold indifference. They became frozen testaments to overreach, emblems of how far we can go and how far we shouldn't. The deeper symbolism of the ghost ship is this: it is not just abandoned, it is unfinished. It is the pause between hope and despair, a physical embodiment of a story never concluded. In a world that craves resolution, the ghost ship defies us by simply being there, preserved and mute. Today, as polar ice melts and new routes open through the Arctic, these ghost ships may become more accessible. Already, climate change has exposed once hidden wrecks and relics. But with that opportunity comes danger, both to the integrity of these historical time capsules and to the narratives that surround them. Some may wish to study, others to exploit. Yet even as we unlock their secrets with sonar, ROVs and digital mapping, we may find that the deeper mystery cannot be dredged from the sea floor. Because what haunts us about the ghost ships of the Arctic is not just how they were abandoned, but why they were never found, never rescued, never explained. Their masts rise like question marks above the ice. Their hulls whisper of final moments we can't reconstruct, and their silence is the answer we are not yet ready to receive. The vanishing of Flight 19. The vanishing of Flight 19 remains one of the most haunting and unresolved aviation mysteries ever recorded. An incident that turned a routine military exercise into a tragic, unsolvable enigma and helped give rise to the legend of the Bermuda Triangle. On the afternoon of December 5, 1945, 5 Grumman TBM Avenger torpedo bombers departed the Naval Air Station at Fort Lauderdale, Florida, for a standard navigation and bombing drill known simply as Navigation Problem Number 1. The mission, expected to last just a few hours, involved a triangular flight path eastward toward the Bahamas, then northward and back to base. Leading the squadron was Lieutenant Charles Carroll Taylor, a combat-experienced Navy flight instructor. Alongside him were 13 other crew members, a mix of trainees and enlisted men. All were trained, equipped and prepared for the mission. The skies were mostly clear, the sea calm, and no one anticipated that by sunset the entire squadron would disappear without a trace. What followed was a cascading series of events that defied military logic and defied the capabilities of 20th century aviation recovery efforts. After completing their initial bombing run near the Hens and Chicken Shoals, the squadron reported a breakdown in navigational instruments, particularly the compasses, leaving Lieutenant Taylor increasingly uncertain of their location. His radio transmissions, intercepted by nearby bases and civilian stations, quickly shifted from routine check-ins to confused, anxious messages. Taylor was convinced they were flying over the Florida Keys hundreds of miles off course, despite reports that his aircraft had likely drifted northeast over the open Atlantic. He attempted to guide the group westward, back towards what he believed was Florida, but the flight path only led them deeper into the vast, featureless ocean. As the sun began to set and radio signals weakened, the squadron's transmissions grew increasingly garbled, panicked, and then abruptly ceased. Flight 19 was never heard from again. In the hours following the disappearance, the US Navy launched one of the most extensive air-sea rescue operations in its history, scouring the Atlantic over a 250,000 square mile area with dozens of ships and aircraft. No wreckage was found, no oil slicks, no bodies, no rafts. The disappearance might have faded quietly into the long list of wartime aviation accidents had it not been for the profound strangeness surrounding it. Compasses, according to the last transmissions, spun without bearing. Weather conditions were initially fair, the crew had ample fuel to return. The planes were built for endurance and rugged combat scenarios, and yet they had vanished, completely, without a trace, leaving behind nothing but a shroud of questions and theories. The mystery deepened when a PBM Mariner flying boat, dispatched that same evening to search for the missing planes, itself disappeared shortly after takeoff with 13 men aboard. A tanker crew reported seeing a fiery explosion in the sky, but no wreckage of the Mariner was ever recovered. 2 aircraft formations, 27 men in total, had vanished into the sea in less than a day. The official investigation concluded that Flight 19 likely ran out of fuel and was forced to ditch in the ocean, where rough winter seas swallowed the aircraft quickly. But the complete absence of debris or bodies was difficult to reconcile, and many felt that something far more bizarre had occurred. Over the decades, Flight 19 became emblematic of the Bermuda Triangle's supernatural reputation. The area between Miami, Bermuda and Puerto Rico, already home to a disturbing number of unexplained disappearances, now had its defining tragedy. Numerous theories arose, ranging from the rational to the wildly speculative. Some proposed magnetic anomalies affecting compasses and disorienting the pilots, particularly Taylor, whose belief that they were over the Keys may have steered the flight far off course. The region is known to have variations in magnetic declination, and under the stress of the moment, disorientation may have led to critical navigational errors. Others have blamed sudden squalls, waterspouts, or vertical downdrafts, phenomena that can occur rapidly and violently in the Atlantic, especially in winter. Yet even these explanations struggle to account for the total lack of physical evidence. No floating debris, no emergency signals, no discovered fuselage. The Avenger bombers, built with reinforced hulls and flotation gear, should have remained visible on the ocean surface for some time, yet none were ever seen. This absence of tangible proof gave birth to more speculative interpretations. Some suggest the squadron entered a dimensional rift or time anomaly, ideas typically relegated to science fiction, but which gained cultural traction due to the extraordinary nature of the incident. Stories of ships and planes encountering strange clouds, disorienting fogs, and moments of lost time in the Bermuda Triangle became linked to Flight 19's fate. A few even posited extraterrestrial involvement, citing scattered reports of unidentified flying objects in the area at the time, though no hard evidence has ever supported this. Others leaned on the psychological toll and stress-induced mistakes of the mission. Lieutenant Taylor, despite being a seasoned pilot, had reportedly gotten lost before and was flying an aircraft unfamiliar to him. It's possible that a combination of malfunctioning equipment, misjudgment, and cascading confusion led him and his men farther into the ocean, where their fuel reserves depleted and hope ran out. But still, no wreckage. Not even a radio call from a crew member in those final minutes. That silence lingers like an echo. The very nature of Flight 19's disappearance, wrapped in ambiguity, became a symbol for humanity's inability to master the forces of nature, despite all our technology and training. It wasn't simply a tragedy, it was a void. The Atlantic's immense depths and shifting currents likely concealed the final resting place of the Avengers, but their absence above the waterline remains a cruel and haunting mystery. In the years that followed, the story of Flight 19 was recounted in books, documentaries, and fictional works, from sober historical analysis to paranormal thrillers. The incident featured prominently in Steven Spielberg's Close Encounters of the Third Kind, reimagined as an alien abduction, further embedding it in the cultural imagination. Yet beneath all the speculation lies the very real story of 14 young men, most of them in their 20s, lost during peacetime on a training mission meant to prepare them for future battles they would never see. Their names, their voices on the radio, their final confusion, all these details turn the mystery into something personal, not just an unsolved riddle but a deeply human loss. Advances in oceanographic exploration, including sonar mapping and submersible technologies, have reignited efforts over the years to locate the wrecks of Flight 19. Expeditions have combed parts of the seafloor east of Florida and the Bahamas, and while several TBM Avengers have been discovered underwater, none have been conclusively identified as members of Flight 19. The ocean, it seems, guards its secrets well. Some researchers argue that strong Gulf Stream currents may have dispersed Enicia wreckage across hundreds of miles, sinking the planes to depths unreachable by conventional means. Others suggest the aircraft may be buried under layers of silt, invisible even to sonar. In any case, the Atlantic remains silent, offering no answers, no fragments, no peace. The families of the lost crewmen received no closure, only a missing status, and the world was left with a narrative shaped more by questions than by facts. The Devil's Sea, Japan's Dragon's Triangle. The Devil's Sea, known to many as Japan's Dragon's Triangle, is one of the most enigmatic and quietly terrifying places on Earth, a vast stretch of Pacific Ocean off the southeastern coast of Japan, where reality seems to unravel, and the ocean keeps secrets too deep for human comprehension. Much like its Atlantic counterpart, the Bermuda Triangle, the Devil's Sea has become a dark enigma wrapped in the whispers of vanished ships, lost aircraft, and sailors who disappear into nothingness, leaving behind no wreckage, no signals, and no trace. Its waters span from the Izu Islands down toward the Mariana Trench, but its borders are not fixed. This triangle is not drawn on any nautical chart. It exists in stories, in disappearances, and in the collective unease of those who dare to cross it. Japanese fishermen speak of zones where compasses whirl wildly, radios fall silent, and the air grows thick with a presence that cannot be seen. Pilots have flown into clear skies only to vanish mid-transmission. Ships, some large and well-equipped, have departed from ports with no sign of trouble, only to be swallowed whole by the waves, never arriving, never reporting. The sea itself offers no answers, just silence. Legends of the Devil's Sea go back centuries, long before modern navigation or satellite tracking. Ancient mariners called it a cursed region, a place inhabited by spirits and monsters, where ships would drift through thick fogs only to re-emerge unmanned, their sails torn, their decks empty. Stories persist of ghostly ships seen at twilight, vessels from another time or world sailing silently before dissolving into mist. Fishermen in remote coastal villages speak in hushed tones about glowing orbs that rise from the water and hover in the sky, pulsing with unnatural light. Some say they've seen these lights disappear into the ocean's depths as if returning home. Others tell of sounds beneath the waves, low mechanical hums or ethereal singing that echo through the hulls of boats in the dead of night. These are not the tales of conspiracy theorists or fantasists, but passed down through generations by those who live and die by the sea. And though skeptics may scoff, the sea listens, and sometimes it answers. The core of the mystery lies in the pattern of disappearance. Vessels found adrift, perfectly intact but entirely devoid of life. Logbooks ending mid-sentence, meals laid out on tables untouched, ships discovered drifting aimlessly with cargo still secure, engines running, but not a soul aboard. In the 1950s, a Japanese research vessel vanished without a distress signal, along with its entire crew. The weather was clear, the sea calm. The vessel never returned, and not a single body was found. The incident was quietly recorded, investigated, and then filed away, one of many that mark the invisible boundary of this forbidden sea. Even more unnerving are the accounts of survivors, rare as they are, who return altered, silent, unwilling, or unable to describe what happened. Some speak of a sudden darkness falling over their vessel in broad daylight, of instruments ceasing to function, of a disorienting sense of time slipping sideways, of voices calling from beneath the sea, and of cold that cuts not the skin, but the mind. Most never speak again. Within the Devil's Sea, time behaves like a trickster. There are accounts of planes losing minutes or hours, of watches running backward or freezing altogether. Navigation systems spiral into confusion, maps become meaningless, and known landmarks vanish into haze. Pilots and sailors speak of being surrounded by an inexplicable fog, so dense it feels alive, pulsing, aware, enclosing. Some describe walls of light, shimmering like liquid glass, cutting across the sky or rising from the ocean, and beyond them, silence. For many, entering the Devil's Sea is not just sailing into dangerous waters, it is stepping out of the known world. It is venturing into a liminal space, a place between realities, where the rules of physics, time, and life itself may not apply. Among the more harrowing tales are those of sudden, absolute disappearances, instances where observers watched a ship or aircraft vanish before their eyes. One story tells of a patrol boat watching a cargo ship in the distance, only to see it engulfed by a sudden wall of mist, never to emerge. No splash, no explosion, just vanishing. Another recounts a pilot flying in formation near the triangle's edge, reporting a strange cloud formation below, then experiencing severe static and disorientation, only to realise he had lost all sense of direction and his wingmen had vanished. He landed safely, but the others were never found. These disappearances have no answers, only patterns, no wreckage, no debris, and always a profound silence, as if the sea itself absorbs the final cry. Local folklore adds yet another layer of mystique. The region has long been associated with sea dragons, colossal, ancient beings said to dwell beneath the waves, protectors or predators depending on the tale. Some say they create whirlpools that open to another world. Others believe the dragons are guardians of a gate between dimensions, and that the disappearances are not deaths, but passages. The name Dragon's Triangle is no coincidence. It evokes not just mythology, but the primal fear of an ancient intelligence beneath the ocean, watching. Island shamans speak of spirits that inhabit these waters, of curses tied to ancient rituals broken by modern arrogance. And in modern times, some whisper of an underwater city, an Atlantean ruin lost in the depths, radiating energy that disrupts navigation, alters perception, and reclaims what ventures too close. There are stories, too, of strange radio signals intercepted in the region, frequencies that repeat nonsensical patterns, human voices speaking unknown languages, or single words spoken repeatedly, growing louder until the signal cuts out. Some vessels have reported hearing distress calls in languages long dead or fragmented static that forms brief, chilling phrases. "We are not alone. Do not enter. It watches." These transmissions are sometimes dismissed as interference, but when they occur near the site of a known disappearance, they take on a darker tone, an echo from a vessel that may no longer exist, a transmission from the other side. Adding to the aura of dread are the ghost sightings. In the depths of the triangle, multiple crews have reported seeing figures standing on the decks of derelict vessels, still, silent silhouettes that vanish when approached. Others describe figures in the water seen from a distance, motionless and pale, their faces never visible, drifting but never sinking. Lights dance on the horizon where no ship exists, and clouds form into unnatural geometries, symmetrical and wrong. Some travellers speak of dreams that begin the moment they enter the region, shared dreams, where entire crews report seeing the same images, a great eye beneath the sea, a tower of black stone reaching from the abyss, or a field of voices calling from beneath the waves. Whether hallucination, suggestion, or something else entirely, these shared visions deepen the psychological unease that haunts the Devil's Sea. What makes the Devil's Sea especially chilling is not just the frequency of its mysteries, but the consistency. Decade after decade, the stories follow the same contours: sudden silence, navigational madness, vanishing vessels, unnatural lights, and a heavy, implacable presence. This consistency transcends coincidence, embedding itself into the subconscious of all who sail near. Sailors avoid the area, pilots detour, fishermen offer prayers when crossing its fringe, and still the triangle waits. It makes no sound, draws no boundary, and issues no warning. It does not rage like a storm, it whispers, it lures. To enter the Devil's Sea is to venture into uncertainty, not the risk of storm or technical failure, but something far more primal. It is the possibility of being unmade, of vanishing in such a way that even memory cannot cling to you. There is no evidence, no resolution, only the ache of absence. And for every vessel that vanishes, the sea grows deeper, not in water, but in enigma. It is a region that defies categorization, neither wholly supernatural nor fully natural, neither entirely myth nor provably real. It straddles a boundary, like the horizon itself, a place always seen, never touched. Perhaps that is its true power, not that it kills, but that it erases. The octopus mystery. The octopus mystery lingers like a shadow beneath the surface of maritime history. A chilling and almost mythical tale whispered through naval corridors and sea-salted air, recounting a moment in the early 1930s when the ocean itself seemed to rise against man in the form of a colossal intelligent beast. Off the rugged coast of California, in the cold, churning depths of the Pacific, a US Navy submarine on a routine exercise found itself gripped by something vast, unseen, and alive. According to the scattered accounts preserved through crew testimonies and whispers in classified reports, the attack came without warning. One moment, the submarine cruised silently below the surface. The next, its hull groaned under the immense pressure of something wrapping itself around the vessel. Tentacles thick as tree trunks, studded with massive suckers that latched onto the metal like ancient seals of doom. The lights flickered. The ship lurched violently. Crewmen were thrown against bulkheads. The sea outside, once a familiar veil of darkness, became the domain of a beast so massive and sudden that even the most seasoned sailors froze with fear. Amidst the chaos, the crew scrambled to repel the creature. Depth charges were armed. Bullets were fired blindly into the inky water. But nothing seemed to deter the grip of the thing that now embraced their vessel with silent determination, as though the sea itself had become sentient and angry. The submarine did not sink. The creature, after what felt like hours but may have been minutes, loosened its grip and vanished into the depths, leaving behind a trail of horror and the groaning, bent metal of a wounded ship. It was over, but nothing would ever quite be the same again. The encounter might have faded into folklore had it not been for the eerie precision of the eyewitness accounts. Crew members spoke of the creature not as some mythic abstraction, but with vivid detail. The wet slap of tentacles against the hull, the echo of suction cups peeling free with unnatural strength, the sensation of being not just attacked, but studied, held, examined. Some reported brief glimpses through murky portholes. A single enormous eye peering in, the sinuous curl of flesh that was neither fish nor serpent, but something older, smarter, stranger. The attack was not wild thrashing, it was measured, intentional, as if the creature had a purpose beyond mere hunger or defense. And then it was gone. No carcass, no trail of blood, no visible retreat. Just the submarine, wounded and stunned, drifting like a blind thing back toward the surface, its mission abandoned. Debriefings were held, silence was ordered, official records would be sparse, yet among sailors the story travelled like smoke, low and slow, impossible to hold or stop. The octopus had come, and for one fleeting moment it had reminded man that he was not master beneath the waves. What made the tale endure wasn't just the terror of the event, but the silence that followed. There were no press releases, no photos, no names, just fragments, rumours, hushed recollections in bunk rooms and bars. Some said the ship's hull bore long gouges, symmetrical and deliberate, like fingers pressed into clay. Others spoke of damage to systems, electronics disrupted, instruments behaving erratically even after repairs. One account claimed that sonar pulses began to echo back differently after the encounter, as though the very rhythm of the deep had changed. The military denied everything, classified, they said, routine malfunction. But the crew knew better. They had felt the strength of that thing. They had heard the hull creak in the grasp of a monster no one had ever catalogued. Some sailors transferred off submarines altogether. A few, it said, never sailed again. And yet, what was it? Not a giant squid. The arms were too thick, the behaviour too calculated. Not a known octopus. The size alone defied biology. No creature officially documented could match what the crew had seen. But this was the 1930s, when much of the ocean remained uncharted, its trench-filled darkness barely glimpsed by man. The abyss was a world unto itself, alien, pressurized, full of things that glow in colours we cannot name. What else might live there, unseen, in silence? The octopus mystery, as it came to be called, seemed less like an isolated encounter and more like a breach, an unwanted crossing of two worlds that should never have touched. It awakened an old fear, one not easily soothed by charts or science, the fear that something else is down there, and it watches. In the years that followed, sightings and stories multiplied, not just in California, but across the Pacific. Fishing boats reported tentacled shapes surfacing in the distance, only to slip back into the water without a sound. Divers emerged, shaking, babbling about shapes in the dark that watched but did not approach. Some spoke of ships that vanished, leaving behind floating debris and the eerie echo of something vast moving below. A freighter once sent a garbled distress call off the coast of Baja. Something below, huge, rising, then silence. It was never found, and always the description remained eerily similar. Immense arms, immense force, and something behind the eyes that did not feel entirely animal. Legends began to intertwine with facts. Old sailors' tales of the Kraken were dusted off and retold with new fervour. Ancient carvings from Polynesian islands, once thought to be stylized depictions of waves or tribal deities, were reinterpreted as representations of giant cephalopods, many with eyes like suns and arms that encircle the earth. Stories of gods who slept beneath the sea, waiting, began to resurface in local folklore. In one Japanese fishing village, elders told of a creature known only as the Keeper, a being so large that when it stirred, the currents changed. They said it came once every century to test the boundaries between worlds. No one believed them, until they did. The most unnerving aspect of the octopus mystery is how little we know and how often we pretend otherwise. We fly jets across continents in hours, we send robots to Mars, we map genomes and orbit satellites, and yet below the ocean's surface, in those crushing depths where sunlight dies and pressure warps metal, we remain blind. We have only touched a fraction of what lies below. What else waits? What else dreams in the cold, quiet dark? The creature that attacked the submarine has never been seen again, or so we're told. Perhaps it was one of a kind. Perhaps it died in some deep trench. Or perhaps it returned to wherever it came from, content for now, watching from the black, waiting. Waiting for another intrusion. Waiting for another challenge. Even today, echoes of the mystery persist. Submariners speak of deep-sea anomalies, zones where sonar pings vanish, where something immense passes without revealing shape. In naval academies, the story is not part of the curriculum, but everyone knows it. Watch the water, they say. Sometimes it watches back. In modern lore, the octopus mystery has become more than just a tale of an encounter. It is a symbol of the limits of knowledge, the arrogance of technology, and the vast, unknowable heart of the planet we call home. It warns that not everything that lives on Earth lives with us. Some things live beside us, invisible, indifferent, or perhaps curious. The SS Orang Medan. The ghost ship drifted under the relentless heat of the tropical sun, silent and still upon the swells of the Malacca Strait, its weathered hull creaking softly as if whispering secrets to the wind. No smoke rose from its funnel, no crew appeared on its decks. From a distance, the SS Orang Medan looked like any other cargo vessel of the post-war era. But as the boarding party approached, summoned by an SOS that clawed its way across the radio waves in fragments of Morse code, the air itself seemed to thicken. The last transmission, crackling and soaked in dread, had spoken of death. All officers, including captain, dead, lying in chart room and bridge, possibly whole crew dead. Then, a final message, chilling in its simplicity, I die. After that, silence. As rescuers boarded the ship, they found no resistance. No signs of struggle, no survivors, only bodies sprawled across the decks and corridors, eyes wide with terror, mouths frozen in silent screams, hands reaching towards something unseen. Some lay with their arms twisted, as though clawing at the air. Others stared up at the sky with expressions so horrified that hardened seamen turned away. Not a single wound was found on any of the corpses. No blood, no injuries, no smoke, no trace of violence. The radio was intact. The lifeboats remained secured. There had been no attempt to abandon ship. It was as if death had swept through the vessel like a whisper in the dark, stealing breath and soul but leaving behind no mark. In the engine room, the dog was found dead too, fangs bared in a snarl of warning at whatever it had seen last. And through the corridors and cabins lingered a presence. Not something you could see, but something that pressed against the skin. The feeling that you were not alone. They searched for clues, but the logbooks were gone, burned or missing, and the charts were scattered as if in a panic. The name painted on the ship's side seemed almost too fresh, as if it had been renamed in haste. There was no documentation, no port of origin, no known cargo. It was as though the ship had emerged from nothing, bearing death upon its decks. Some whispered it was a phantom, a vessel that had never truly been born in any dockyard of Earth, but had crossed over from somewhere else, bringing with it an affliction not meant for this world. As the boarding crew explored the upper decks, they found the bodies curled in unnatural positions, limbs locked in rigor mortis with the tension of final moments filled with terror. One man had his hands to his throat, eyes bulging as if he had tried to scream something no human language could shape. The captain's corpse was found slumped against the helm, frozen in place with a look of dread so absolute that it seemed to radiate even in death. Time seemed suspended. Sound died. The air was cold despite the tropical sun. No birds circled. The sea around the vessel had become unnaturally still. Then, before any tow line could be attached, a fire erupted from the ship's depths, sudden, violent, and consuming. Flames burst from the lower hull without warning, as if ignited by some unseen hand. The boarding crew barely escaped. Within minutes, the Orang Medan was ablaze, black smoke twisting into the sky, carrying with it whatever secrets it held. And then it was gone, swallowed by the sea in an explosion that rocked the waves, leaving behind only oil-slicked water and the echo of that final, chilling message, "I die." The ship, the logs, the bodies, all vanished. What remained was a question. What had happened aboard the Orang Medan? What force could kill without touch, terrify without form, and vanish without trace? Over the years, the story spread like a cold wind among sailors, researchers, and seekers of the strange. Yet no two tellings were ever quite the same. In some, the ship had left a port in China, carrying a cargo no manifest would declare. In others, it sailed from a forgotten island, fleeing something ancient and bound in steel. Some claimed the vessel was transporting biological weapons, hidden under crates marked as machine parts. Others spoke of a forbidden relic, an artifact dredged up from a sunken temple wrapped in oilskin and sealed with wax stamped with unreadable symbols. Whispers told of crewmen driven mad by dreams of cold hands and chanting beneath the deck, of footsteps in empty hallways, of lights flickering where no lights should be. Yet these were only whispers, impossible to prove, and always delivered with a sidelong glance and a lowered voice. The sea does not give up her secrets easily, and there were those who said the Orang Medan never existed, that it was a tale spun by bored radio operators or journalists hungry for sensation, that no ship's registry bore its name, that no wreck had been found, that the fire and the bodies were inventions. But the men who had been there, who had heard the Morse code or seen the dead, spoke with a different kind of conviction. Not the certainty of fact, but the certainty of experience. They had seen something not meant to be seen, something that did not belong in the realm of ships and stars. The mystery was not just in the ship's disappearance, or the manner of death, or the final message. It was in the feeling that the Orang Medan had come from elsewhere, that it had crossed a threshold not meant to be crossed, and whatever it had encountered had returned with it, invisible and insatiable. Decades have passed, but the sea has never yielded a single piece of that ship. No boilerplate, no hull fragment, no bleached bone. The Orang Medan may lie buried beneath layers of silt, or perhaps it was never a physical ship at all, but a shadow of something else. Something that passed through our world for a moment and then was gone. The waters where it sailed are still travelled by thousands of vessels, yet mariners tell of zones where compasses spin, radios fail, and an unnatural cold steals across the deck. Some say that on still nights you can hear the faint echo of Morse code, dots and dashes tapping out into the void, calling again endlessly, "SOS, I die." Some ships refuse to enter the region. Some captains mark it on maps in pencil, never explaining why. For those who believe, the Orang Medan is not just a ghost story, it is a warning. A reminder that there are forces on this earth and beyond that science cannot name and reason cannot quiet. The SS Orang Medan may be myth or memory or manifestation, but it endures, lingering like a fog on the edge of logic. It reminds us that the sea is not merely salt water and depth, but a veil, thin in places, between what we know and what waits. Beneath the surface lies a silence deeper than death, and once in a while something rises from that silence. The Orang Medan sailed into that silence. It never came back. The disappearing lighthouse keepers of the Flannan Isles. In the winter of 1900, the sea off the western coast of Scotland churned with wind and brine, and in its vast grey expanse, a cluster of jagged rocks rose from the Atlantic like the broken teeth of a buried colossus. The Flannan Isles. Remote, windswept and often cloaked in mist, they sat 9 miles from the nearest landmass, alone and defiant against the waves. On Eilean Moor, the largest of these lonely isles, stood a newly built lighthouse, a solitary white tower staring out over an unforgiving ocean. It had only been operational for a year when, in mid-December, the men stationed within it vanished, utterly and without trace. James Ducat, Thomas Marshall, and Donald MacArthur were its keepers. 3 men of solid temperament and sound record, chosen to endure the grinding solitude and harsh conditions of island life in service of the mariners' safety. It was their duty to keep the light burning through the long, black nights of winter, to stand guard against the darkness. But on December 26, 1900, when the relief vessel Hesperus finally arrived after days of storm delay, it was not greeted with the customary signals. The tower stood silent. The island from a distance looked untouched. But something was wrong. As the relief crew stepped ashore, a hush fell upon them. The landing platform was deserted. The flagstaff was bare. The storage crates meant to be replenished were still full. They called out, but no voice replied. The only sound was the howl of the wind rushing up from the sea. Approaching the lighthouse door, they found it locked from within. They forced it open. Inside, the scene was one of stillness. Eerie, untouched stillness. The kitchen table was set for a meal never eaten. The chair was toppled over, as if someone had risen abruptly. Coats were missing from their hooks, except for one which hung alone like an abandoned shadow. The clocks had stopped. The beds were made. The oil lamps were full but unlit. The very air felt as if it had been left behind mid-breath. No sign of struggle, no blood, no note, no fire, nothing. Then they found the logbook. Its last entries spoke of storms, of strange behaviour, of one man weeping in silence while the others stared out at the sea. It spoke of fear, unusual fear. And then it simply stopped. No farewell, no final entry, no indication that anything more had happened. And yet all 3 men were gone. The search began that day. The cliffs were scoured, the rocks combed for footprints. A set of boot marks led to the western edge of the island, where the cliffs fell sharply into the sea. There, near a crevice, they found a twisted iron railing bent and torn from the concrete as though by something enormous. A lifeline was severed and hanging. A box of equipment had been split open and scattered, but there was no sign of the men, no blood, no torn clothing, no echo of a cry, just the wind and the spray, and the stone watching wordlessly as it had for centuries. No one ever saw the keepers again. The men had not left voluntarily. Of that the investigators were certain. Their boots were gone, their coats too, but not all of them. One coat remained, its emptiness hanging like a question. If 2 had left to brave the storm, why had a 3rd followed without his protection? What had called him from the tower with such urgency that he had not stopped to dress? And why had none returned? The sea gives up its dead, eventually, but no bodies ever washed ashore, no wreckage floated in on the tide. The lifeboat was still secured in its place. Whatever had taken them, it had left nothing behind but the silence. Over the years, the island's shadows grew longer. Sailors spoke of a curse, of strange lights flickering from the tower when it should have been dark, of voices crying out from the rocks, carried on winds that made no sense. Visitors who came to tend the light in later years described an unease that clung to the stone. Doors that opened on their own, footsteps where no one walked, and always, the sense that something was watching. The new keepers kept their logs precise. They rarely lingered beyond their shifts. Some refused to speak of the place at all. The sea changed its colour, they said. When you neared the Flannans, it grew darker, thicker, heavier with something unnamed. The wind did not howl so much as whisper. And always the tower stood, bright-eyed, mute and grim. The Flannan Isles became more than a place. They became a question, a wound in the map. Something had happened there. Something final. But no storm had been reported in neighbouring areas. No ship had seen anything. No one had heard a cry for help, even though the light was supposed to be in contact with passing vessels. The radio, if it had been used, sent no signal. The relief crew, delayed by foul weather, had arrived late, and perhaps too late to intervene. But how late? An hour? A day? A week? Legends grew around the 3 names. James Ducat, the principal keeper, said to be a quiet man, steady and reliable. Thomas Marshall, the second assistant known to keep meticulous records, and Donald MacArthur, the occasional, a man described as passionate, excitable, perhaps prone to superstition. The logbook had spoken of quarrels, but only in code. It had spoken of silence too, a silence so deep it pressed in against the bones, a silence so heavy that it made the waves sound like footsteps. There were whispers, of course, that a ship had come in the night, no vessel of this world, and taken them, that the men had been drawn into the sea by something unseen, that one had gone mad and the others followed into the dark, that the island itself had claimed them, drawn them into the stone and salt and shadow. Some spoke of a single candle found burning in the tower with no wick, its flame steady against the wind. Others spoke of a journal, now lost, in which one of the men had scrawled a final phrase: "The sea is rising, it walks now." But these were stories. The truth, if it existed, had gone out with the light. In the years that followed, the Northern Lighthouse Board fortified the site. Railings were replaced, safety measures added. The tower was automated in 1971, and the need for keepers ended. But the stories did not. They lingered like mist. Ships still pass the Flannans, the light still turns in the night. But sometimes, sailors say, the light flickers, just once. And in that flicker 3 shadows stand at the edge of the cliff, watching, waiting. No explanation has ever been accepted as final, no account satisfies all the facts. The sea holds its secrets, and Eileen Moore remains silent. What took the men? Where did they go? And why over a century later does the island still feel as if it's missing something, or someone? The underwater ruins of Yonaguni. Beneath the restless waters of the East China Sea, off the southern tip of Japan's Yonaguni Island, there lies a structure that has stirred imaginations for decades. Here, where fierce currents whip past coral reefs and shadows dance across the seafloor, an immense formation looms in silence. Carved into the bedrock, it seems to breathe with secrets. Sharp angles and towering steps rise from the depths. Terraces stretch outward in symmetry, and stairways descend into the blue void, as if once built for feet that have long vanished from history. Discovered in 1986 by a local diver, this submerged anomaly has refused to yield its story. Its stone face remains unreadable, its silence uninterrupted. The world has given it a name, the Yonaguni Monument, but what it truly is, no one can say. Divers who have descended to its mysterious corridors speak of an eerie stillness, a presence, a sensation that they are not alone. Even in clear waters, light struggles to grasp the full shape of the ruin. It is immense, a monolithic complex stretching over 150 meters long and rising in places as high as 5 stories. Underwater floodlights reveal vast flat surfaces, precise right angles, pillars that rise like forgotten obelisks, and channels that seem carved with purpose. Yet no writing adorns the walls, no relics rest in the dust. It is a cathedral without gods, a city without people, a monument without memory. Among its most captivating features is a rectangular courtyard, cut so cleanly into the stone that it appears deliberate, symmetrical, bounded, and still. Divers swim through what seems to be a narrow hallway flanked by steep walls. At one end, a formation resembles a massive stepped altar. Elsewhere, grooves line the walls, running in parallel like the trails of chisels, or perhaps only the illusions of them. Some surfaces bear pits that hint at symbols, shapes that the eye wishes to translate into meaning but never can. Faces seem to emerge from shadows only to vanish with a shift of current. No coral clings to these surfaces. No sea life makes a home within its alcoves. It feels untouched by time, or forgotten by it. The site sits in silence, 25 meters below the waves, veiled by shifting light and the hush of the sea. At times, visibility fades to meters. The waters swirl with unpredictability. Only the most experienced divers reach its depths, and even they describe a sense of reverence, or dread. Those who surface speak not of artifacts or data, but of emotion, of being watched, of being in a place not meant to be found. From above, the structure is almost invisible, masked by the sea's turbulence. But sonar maps and high-resolution scans reveal outlines that defy easy categorization. Staircases that climb to nowhere, broad platforms that extend like city plazas. columns that stand in defiance of erosion. Their geometry does not conform to nature's chaos. They feel shaped by intention, by hands guided by vision, and yet there are no tools, no signs of construction, no bones, no vessels, no offerings. Some divers describe a triangular formation with its apex pointing west, its base resting firmly in the rock. It is surrounded by a trench, narrow and deep, like a moat. Along one edge, stones rest in what seem to be rows, aligned too neatly to be random. To swim alongside them is to drift past a procession of ghosts. No voice echoes through the chambered corridors, only the rasp of bubbles and the beating of one's heart. The monument's silence is contagious. It infects those who study it. In university halls and remote dive shacks alike, its name is spoken with hesitation. Not disbelief, but wonder. What force shaped it? What was its purpose? Why here off a tiny island near the edge of the Pacific, in waters where no great cities were known to thrive? Some have claimed to see faces carved into stone. A broken visage here, a solemn profile there, staring blankly from beneath sediment. Others describe a monolith shaped like a turtle, resting atop a platform like a sentinel from a forgotten epoch. And then there is the so-called road, a perfectly level corridor flanked by rising rock walls, stretching out and then vanishing into the seabed. It calls to mind ancient processions, long-gone rituals, footsteps never recorded, but there is no proof of anything. No names etched in stone, no signs of fire or life, only the forms remain, imposing, immaculate, empty. The islanders of Yonaguni speak little of the monument. To some, it is a curiosity, to others a place best left undisturbed. Tales persist in whispers, of a land once swallowed by the sea, of gods who walked beneath the waves, of a kingdom whose name has been forgotten even by legend. Some claim to dream of the monument. They see great halls filled with torchlight, markets on sunlit terraces, processions that wind down stone steps into moonlit courtyards, then always the sea and silence. At dusk, when the water glows gold and crimson and the wind howls through the cliffs, the sea around Yonaguni darkens more quickly than elsewhere. Fishermen cast their lines wide of the sight. The currents there, they say, change too fast. Shadows pass beneath the boats, strange songs echo against the hull. No one can say for certain how long the monument has rested beneath the waves. Some say 2,000 years, others 10,000 or more. But time does not move the same in such places. It seems frozen, suspended, waiting. There are whispers too of deeper corridors, passages yet unseen, openings that lie in shadow and resist the light. Some divers claim to have glimpsed doorways, wide rectangular voids cut into the stone at Kliji and turned back, not from danger but from instinct, a sense that what lay beyond was not meant for them, that the monument protects something, or remembers something, or grieves. Every attempt to explain the monument falls short of the feeling it leaves behind. It is not simply stone beneath the sea, it is presence. It is the sound of thought echoing through water. It is the ghost of civilization itself, a riddle without words, a monument to something we can no longer recall. The deeper one dives into its mystery, the more questions rise to the surface. Who shaped these forms, if anyone? Why here, where the ocean grinds rock into sand and buries secrets in silence? What purpose did it serve? Temple, fortress, sanctuary? Or was it never built at all? Is it nature's perfect illusion, Rad, or mankind's most forgotten creation? And why does it feel alive? Those who return to the monument again and again say they dream of it at night. They hear the sea breathing. They see cities that no longer exist. They wake with salt on their lips and a name on their tongue. A name they can't recall the next morning. The Shag Harbour UFO incident. It was a clear, quiet night on October 4th, 1967, in the sleepy fishing village of Shag Harbour, Nova Scotia. A full moon hung low over the horizon, its reflection shimmering on the gentle waves of the Atlantic. Life was simple here. Boats bobbed in the harbour, and fishermen prepared for the morning tide. No one knew that within minutes this peaceful stretch of coast would become the centre of one of the most unsettling and enduring mysteries in Canadian history. At approximately 11:20 p.m, a series of strange lights appeared in the sky. Witnesses along the shore spotted what they described as a glowing object, fiery orange and yellow, moving with unnerving precision across the night sky. It did not streak like a meteor, it did not pulse like a flare. Instead, it hovered, tilted, dipped, and then, without a sound, descended toward the water. Many thought a plane WS crashing, but there was no explosion, no fireball. Just a brilliant object sinking into the cold Atlantic, trailing light as it fell. At that moment, everything changed. Multiple calls poured into the Royal Canadian Mounted Police Detachment in Barrington Passage. Citizens claimed something had gone down in the waters just off Shag Harbour. Officers, unsure whether they were dealing with a plane crash or a distress signal, sprang into action. Within minutes, patrol cars arrived at the shoreline. Flashlights scanned the Black Sea. What they saw chilled them, a glowing patch of yellow-orange light hovering just beneath the surface. It drifted gently offshore, as if the object beneath was moving under its own power. There was no sound, only the whisper of waves and the hiss of wind. Emergency responders rushed to the scene. The RCMP, the Canadian Coast Guard, and a number of local fishermen set out into the harbour by boat, guided only by the haunting underwater glow. They reached the area quickly, but when they arrived, the light was gone. The sea was calm, dark and empty. Nothing remained. Divers were summoned, sonar was brought in. For days they scoured the area. No wreckage, no oil slick, no debris, no bodies, nothing. The object, whatever it was, had vanished without a trace. What was it that the townspeople had seen? What had sunk beneath the surface of Shag Harbour, only to disappear into the Atlantic's cold embrace? The stories, though told by ordinary people, police officers, fishermen, shopkeepers, were eerily consistent. A strange light in the sky, a silent descent, an impact without destruction, a glow beneath the water, and then nothing. The silence that followed only deepened the mystery. Rumours swirled. Some said it was a secret military craft. Others whispered of extraterrestrial visitors. The skies above Shag Harbour, once a place of migrating seabirds and drifting clouds, now held an unspoken tension. People watched the horizon differently. The ocean, already vast and unknowable, became something darker, something that perhaps held secrets beyond imagination. Then came the whispers from inside the investigation. Official inquiries were launched almost immediately. The Canadian government, along with the Royal Canadian Navy and the Department of National Defence, opened a file on the incident. It was given the name UFO Report Shag Harbour. Records were compiled, radar logs were examined, and military personnel were quietly dispatched to the region. Documents would later confirm what locals had suspected all along. The government had taken the incident very seriously. Too seriously for something explained away as a meteor or a misidentified aircraft. One internal memo described the object as an unknown that could not be linked to any known craft or natural phenomenon. Another noted that while the object was seen entering the water, no trace of it was ever found. No signal, no wreckage, no explanation. Even the term UFO was used in official documentation, not as speculation, as classification. Still no answers came, but something else happened, quietly without public notice. Days after the initial search ended, unmarked ships were seen offshore. Divers returned. This time, they weren't local. Reports from nearby fishermen told of activity at sea under the cover of darkness. Sonar pings, boats without names, lights that moved below the waterline. What were they looking for? Had something been found? If so, it was never shared with the public. In time, official interest waned. The case was filed away, declared unexplained, and yet it never faded. Decades later, the town of Shag Harbour still remembers. A small memorial now stands near the crash site, a quiet acknowledgement of the night when the sea swallowed a mystery. Tourists come to hear the story. Locals retell it with the same wonder, the same unease. Those who saw it, who were there that night, have never wavered in their accounts. Some are still waiting for the truth. Among them is Laurie Wickens, one of the first to report the event. He and his friends watched the light descend, followed it to the water and alerted authorities. Over 50 years later, his memory hasn't dulled. It wasn't a plane, he says. It wasn't anything I'd ever seen before, or since. The official record remains unchanged. Unidentified flying object. No explanation available, but speculation continues. There are those who believe the object didn't crash at all, but submerged intentionally, cloaked by the sea. Some point to the strange underwater lights seen in the days after the incident, suggesting the object remained beneath the harbour, hidden from view. Others speak of a second craft arriving to assist or retrieve the first, citing unconfirmed sonar readings and anonymous military sources. If true, it would mean something not of this world entered our waters, remained undetected, and left as mysteriously as it came. No one saw it depart, but no one ever found it either. The sea does not give up its secrets easily, and Shag Harbour, like many places touched by mystery, has become more than geography. It is a threshold, a place where the known world met something unknown, where science stopped and silence began. Today, Shag Harbour remains quiet. Fishing boats still leave before dawn. Waves still lap against the wharf. But when the night is clear and the stars are bright, some gaze out over the water and remember. They remember the light, the descent, the hush, and the moment when something from the sky touched the earth and vanished beneath the sea, leaving nothing but questions. And they wonder, what if it comes back? The Ghost Fleet of the Sargasso Sea. The Ghost Fleet of the Sargasso Sea is an enduring maritime mystery, enveloped in the swirling currents and floating mats of seaweed that define one of the ocean's most enigmatic regions. The Sargasso Sea, nestled deep in the North Atlantic and uniquely bounded not by land but by four ocean currents, presents a paradox. An open ocean so still, so calm, and so strangely green that it unnerves even the most seasoned sailors. Within its warm, sluggish waters lies an immense, ever-shifting tangle of golden-brown sargassum seaweed, stretching endlessly across the surface like a suffocating net. It is here, among the slow-turning gyre, that ships have entered and never returned. They vanish from the world of men, only to drift silently rudderless and abandoned as part of the fabled Ghost Fleet. For centuries, sailors have feared these waters. Early mariners told of ships that entered the sea and found themselves ensnared, their sails hanging limp in windless air, their hulls caught in thick mats of vegetation. With food dwindling and supplies rotting in the heat, some crews were driven mad by the inescapable stillness, the endless horizon unchanged day after day. The eerie calm played cruel tricks on the mind. No storms, no breakers, only the relentless sun and the rustle of weed against the hull. Then came the sightings. Derelict ships floating silently, sails shredded by time, decks deserted yet intact, and no trace of the souls who had once called them home. They were not all legends. They were real sightings, hundreds of them, of vessels discovered adrift in or near the Sargasso Sea. A schooner drifting under full sail with not a single man aboard. A merchant ship found with breakfast still laid on the table, but not a soul remaining. A whaler floating high in the water, cargo untouched, yet its logbook ended mid-sentence. These were not ships lost to storms or war. They bore no signs of fire or battle, no SOS calls, no splintered hulls or torn canvas to tell their tale. Only silence, as if the sea had swallowed the men, but not the ships. Among the most chilling discoveries was that of a British brigantine found in the 19th century with its logbook freshly written, crew gear stowed neatly, and lifeboats gone. But there was no sign of a struggle. No blood, no overturned furniture. Only the echo of something missing, an absence felt more than seen. Some believe the crew abandoned ship for reasons unknown, perhaps lured by the promise of something seen from the deck, perhaps frightened by a madness no man could name, but none of them were ever found. The ship drifted for weeks before being towed into port, another silent recruit to the Ghost Fleet. The Sargasso Sea's geography may seem to offer an explanation. Trapped by the circular gyre, vessels can become becalmed for weeks or months, their supplies exhausted, their distress signals unheard. The golden mats of seaweed, beautiful from a distance, become an oppressive prison. They clog rudders and jam propellers. In days past, when wind was the only means of propulsion, to lose even a faint breeze in this place was a slow, living death. Many a captain would go to sleep hoping for wind, only to wake to the same unmoving horizon and the whisper of seaweed brushing the hull, like fingers tapping from the deep. But something deeper haunts these waters. Stories told in whispers below deck speak of ships sighted on still nights, lanterns glowing faintly, moving without sails or steam. Some say they are mirages, tricks of the heat. Others claim they are real, that these are the ghost ships themselves, cursed to sail forever in a circle, caught in the gyre's endless spiral. Mariners who cross their paths are said to hear voices carried on the still air, see faces peering from portholes, and feel a presence watching from the empty decks. There are tales of brave souls boarding these derelicts, only to find strange symbols scratched into walls, moss-covered bones in the holds, or in some versions, nothing at all. Just dust, silence, and that same unshakable sense of being unwelcome. The Sargasso Sea does not take kindly to intrusions. Divers who dare explore the ghost ships report strange malfunctions, compasses spinning wildly, radios going silent, light flickering inexplicably. Some speak of shadows in the water, moving beneath the ships with a deliberation that suggests intelligence. One diving expedition in the 1970s claims to have recovered a bell from a vessel never recorded in maritime registries, its name worn away by time. The ship, a decayed husk overgrown with seaweed, held no clues, no documents, no hull markings, no idea of when or how it arrived. It simply was, as though it had emerged from nowhere. There are darker accounts. One fishing trawler reported radioing a derelict for hours, assuming it was a disabled vessel. When the crew boarded it, they found a massive wooden ship with masts, clearly ancient yet preserved with unnatural integrity. In the captain's quarters, a logbook was found. The last entry read, "We cannot leave, the water listens." No one could identify the ship. It was older than it should have been afloat. The next morning, the derelict was gone, vanished into the fog that sometimes rolls through the seaweed in a sudden, suffocating wave. Sailors who have passed through the Sargasso often return with strange stories, dreams that repeat for weeks after, filled with thick vines, drowned eyes, and corridors of wooden hallways lit by swaying lanterns. Some report the sensation of being followed not by another ship but by something below, just beneath the waves. There is a theory, whispered only in certain coastal taverns, that the Sargasso is alive, not in the biological sense, but as a sentient force. That it selects, it remembers, it consumes. Indeed, the ghost fleet does not rest in one location. The Sargasso gyre shifts, and with it the ships trapped within it slowly turn in an eternal dance. Some drift apart, some vanish altogether. Satellite images show strange anomalies. Long linear objects beneath the mats of seaweed, shadows of vessels where none should be. But when planes or ships investigate, they find nothing. Or worse, they find something that should not be there. One expedition claimed to locate the remains of a ship listed as sunk in the Pacific during World War II, over 8,000 miles away. It had the same dimensions, same hull markings, and same name. But the records were clear. That ship went down with all hands. No one could explain how a wreck from another ocean ended up floating here, whole and undisturbed, its decks eerily clean. Theories abound. Some suggest the Sargasso is a natural time trap where vessels disappear and re-emerge decades later, untouched by the years. Others claim it hides an entrance to a deeper world, a pocket of time or space where lost things accumulate. More pragmatic voices point to piracy, secret currents, and the sheer vastness of the ocean. But none can explain why so many ships end up found empty, intact, and unmanned in the same stretch of sea. And the ships keep coming. Even today, in the age of GPS and satellite tracking, ships have been reported drifting into the Sargasso Sea and vanishing for hours, sometimes days. When they reappear, logs are missing, timestamps corrupted, and crew members speak of disorientation, of lost time. Some speak of another ship seen in the distance, always the same one, a black-hulled brig with no nameplate, its sails full despite the stillness, vanishing behind a curtain of seaweed before it can be identified. The name Isabella is whispered among sailors, though no such ship appears in modern registries. No one can say for certain what the ghost fleet of the Sargasso Sea truly is. Perhaps it is merely a graveyard of unlucky vessels and forgotten voyages, trapped by windless seas and bad fortune. Or perhaps it is something far older, a place where the rules of navigation, time and logic bend just enough to let things slip through. Ships, men, memories. The sea does not give up its dead easily. In the Sargasso, it doesn't give them up at all. The lost continent of Lemuria, the legend of Lemuria, often referred to as the lost continent of Lemuria, stands as one of the most enduring and enigmatic mysteries in the lore of ancient civilizations and lost lands, weaving together strands of geology, mythology, and speculative history into a complex tapestry of intrigue and debate. The concept of Lemuria originated in the 19th century when scientists and scholars sought to explain puzzling geological and biological phenomena that defied existing theories of continental formation and species distribution. The idea was first proposed by zoologist Philip Sclater in 1864, who observed that certain lemur species were found in Madagascar and India, but were absent from Africa and the Middle East, leading him to hypothesize the existence of a submerged landmass connecting these regions, which he named Lemuria. This hypothesis was intended to account for the geographic distribution of flora and fauna before the development of the theory of plate tectonics, which would later provide a more comprehensive explanation. Despite the scientific shift, the notion of Lemuria evolved beyond its zoological origins, becoming enshrined in esoteric traditions, occult philosophies, and popular culture as a lost civilization shrouded in mystery, said to have vanished beneath the waves due to cataclysmic events, leaving only traces behind. According to various accounts and interpretations, Lemuria was purportedly a vast continent situated in the Indian or Pacific Oceans, larger than Australia, and home to an advanced prehistoric civilization. Descriptions of Lemuria are often depicted as a land of immense spiritual and technological achievement, inhabited by beings possessing knowledge and powers far exceeding those of contemporary societies. Some esoteric teachings claim that Lemurians were the ancestors of humanity, or a separate branch of humanoid beings, contributing to the development of ancient cultures around the world. The story of Lemuria was popularized in the late 19th and early 20th centuries by writers such as Helena Blavatsky, founder of Theosophy, who incorporated Lemuria into a grand narrative of human evolution and spiritual enlightenment. According to these accounts, Lemuria was destroyed by massive geological upheavals, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and rising sea levels, resulting in its submergence and the dispersal of its survivors to other continents. These tales intertwine with broader myths of Atlantis and other lost lands, creating a rich mythos that continues to inspire exploration, speculation, and debate. Geologically, the idea of a sunken continent like Lemuria has been challenged and largely refuted by modern science, particularly with the acceptance of plate tectonics and continental drift. Studies of the Earth's crust, ocean floors, and tectonic plates have shown that continents do not sink or vanish as previously hypothesized, but move gradually over millions of years. The distribution of species once attributed to land bridges or lost continents is now explained by the movement of plates and historical biogeography. However, some geological phenomena such as microcontinents, submerged plateaus, and sunken land masses like Zealandia have reignited interest in the possibility that significant portions of land once existed in now submerged locations. These discoveries suggest that the Earth's surface has undergone dramatic transformations, and that submerged landforms with historical or prehistorical significance might still be waiting to be explored. Such findings fuel continued fascination with legends like Lemuria, blurring the lines between myth and scientific possibility. Archaeological evidence that might support the existence of Lemuria is elusive and controversial. While no definitive artifacts or ruins have been conclusively linked to a lost continent, some ancient structures and cultural motifs found across widely separated regions have been cited by proponents of Lemuria theories as evidence of a common origin or shared heritage. For example, similarities in pyramid construction, megalithic architecture, and symbolic art in parts of Asia, the Pacific Islands, and Madagascar have been interpreted as remnants of Lemurian influence or migration. Critics argue that such parallels can arise independently through convergent cultural evolution and do not necessitate a lost continent hypothesis. Additionally, the scarcity of direct material evidence makes it difficult to substantiate claims, leaving Lemuria largely within the realm of speculative history and esoteric tradition, rather than empirical science. Oceanographic and marine geological research has explored regions purportedly associated with Lemuria, such as the submerged features in the Indian Ocean, including the Mascarene Plateau and the Saya de Malha Bank. These underwater plateaus and ridges represent ancient land masses that were once above sea level during periods of lower sea level, such as during the last ice age. Some researchers speculate that these submerged features could be remnants of larger land areas, although none correspond precisely to the size and configuration of the mythical Lemuria. Detailed mapping and sampling of these features reveal complex geological histories shaped by volcanic activity, sedimentation, and tectonic shifts. While these data enrich our understanding of the Earth's changing surface, they also highlight the challenges of linking submerged geological formations to human history and mythology without direct archaeological evidence. The cultural and spiritual dimensions of Lemuria have played a significant role in its persistence as a mystery and symbol. In theosophy and related movements, Lemuria is depicted as a centre of ancient wisdom and spiritual evolution, with its inhabitants possessing psychic abilities and advanced knowledge of natural laws. These teachings have influenced various New Age and esoteric philosophies, intertwining Lemuria with concepts of Atlantis, lost wisdom, and human potential. The narrative of a sunken continent inhabited by enlightened beings resonates with archetypal themes of fall and redemption, loss and recovery, and the quest for hidden knowledge. This symbolic framework has given Lemuria a life beyond geology, shaping personal and collective imaginations and inspiring artistic, literary, and metaphysical explorations. The mystery of Lemuria also intersects with historical patterns of human migration and cultural diffusion. Some alternative historians propose that survivors of Lemuria migrated to various parts of the world, influencing the development of early civilizations in Asia, Africa, and the Pacific Islands. These hypotheses often rely on comparative mythology, linguistic studies, and interpretations of ancient texts. Mainstream archaeology, however, relies on tangible evidence and has yet to validate these claims. Genetic studies of human populations provide insights into migration patterns, but do not support the existence of a lost continent as a cradle of civilization. The scientific consensus favours models of human dispersal out of Africa and subsequent regional developments, challenging the historical basis for Lemuria narratives. Despite the scientific challenges, the allure of Lemuria endures in popular culture and alternative histories. The lost continent has been a subject of countless books, documentaries, and fictional works that explore themes of ancient mysteries, advanced civilizations, and hidden histories. These portrayals often blend historical facts with imaginative speculation, creating compelling narratives that capture the imagination of audiences worldwide. The story of Lemuria continues to be a source of inspiration for those drawn to the unknown and the possibility that our understanding of human history and the Earth's geological past is incomplete or obscured. The investigation into the Lemuria mystery illustrates broader themes about the nature of scientific inquiry, the role of mythology, and the human desire to explain and connect with our origins. The initial scientific proposal of Lemuria as a zoological explanation reflects the evolving nature of scientific understanding and how hypotheses can be superseded by new evidence and theories. At the same time, the transformation of Lemuria into a mythic lost continent underscores the power of storytelling and symbolism in shaping human knowledge and belief. The interplay between empirical evidence and cultural narrative is central to the ongoing fascination with Lemuria and other lost land myths. Contemporary research continues to explore submerged landforms and ancient coastlines through advancements in marine geology, underwater archaeology, and paleo-environmental reconstruction. Technologies such as sonar mapping, sediment coring, and radiometric dating enable scientists to reconstruct past sea levels, land extents, and ecological conditions. These studies provide valuable context for understanding how human populations adapted to changing environments, including the flooding of coastal areas and islands. While no definitive link to Lemuria has been established, this research enriches our knowledge of Earth's dynamic history and the resilience of human societies. The mystery of Lemuria also highlights the challenges in distinguishing between scientific hypotheses, pseudoscientific claims, and mythological narratives. The persistence of Lemuria in popular and esoteric discourse illustrates how ideas can transcend their origins and acquire new meanings in different contexts. This phenomenon raises questions about the criteria for knowledge, the boundaries between science and belief, and the ways in which cultural narratives influence perceptions of reality. The case of Lemuria serves as a reminder of the importance of critical inquiry, evidence-based reasoning, and open-minded exploration in the pursuit of understanding. The Vatican Observatory's Lucifer Telescope controversy. The Vatican Observatory's Lucifer Telescope, perched atop Mount Graham in Arizona, represents one of the most fascinating and complex intersections of faith, science, and mystery in the modern world. Officially known as the Large Binocular Telescope Near-Infrared Utility, with camera and integral field unit for extragalactic research, the instrument's acronym, Lucifer, inevitably ignited controversy, public curiosity, and a flood of speculation that transcends typical scientific discourse. Installed in the early 2000s as part of a collaborative international effort involving the Vatican Observatory and various research institutions, the telescope's purpose was to peer deep into the cosmos, seeking to unravel the secrets of distant galaxies, star formation, and the fundamental workings of the universe through infrared observation. Its location on Mount Graham, at an elevation of over 10,000 feet and far removed from urban light pollution, made it an ideal site for cutting-edge astronomical research. However, beyond its scientific mission, the telescope became the centre of heated debate involving indigenous rights, environmental concerns, religious symbolism, and conspiracy theories that continue to captivate researchers, activists, and the public alike. The name Lucifer was assigned as an acronym derived from the telescope's technical title, yet its association with the biblical figure commonly linked to rebellion and darkness in Christian theology sparked immediate controversy, particularly within religious and indigenous communities. Mount Graham is sacred land for the Western Apache tribe, who regard the mountain as a spiritual centre and a place of cultural significance. The construction of the telescope, alongside other observatories, led to intense protests and legal battles over the desecration of sacred land and the environmental impact on endangered species such as the Mount Graham red squirrel. These conflicts underscore the tension between scientific advancement and respect for cultural and ecological values, a theme that resonates far beyond the specific location. The juxtaposition of a Catholic institution operating a telescope bearing the name Lucifer added an ironic and symbolic layer to the discourse, with critics and conspiracy theorists interpreting the telescope's existence as evidence of hidden agendas or esoteric knowledge pursued under the guise of faith. Scientifically, the Vatican Observatory, established in the 16th century and among the oldest astronomical institutions in the world, has long sought to reconcile religious belief with empirical inquiry, embracing astronomy as a means to understand the divine creation. The Lucifer telescope, as part of this legacy, exemplifies the Vatican's commitment to contributing to modern science, with its focus on infrared astronomy allowing observation through cosmic dust clouds that obscure visible light. This capability has enabled researchers to study phenomena such as starbirth, black holes, and the formation of planetary systems with unprecedented clarity. The collaboration between the Vatican and secular research institutions on Mount Graham highlights the evolving relationship between science and religion, demonstrating that faith and reason can coexist and complement each other in the quest for knowledge. Despite its noble scientific objectives, the Lucifer telescope's name and location have been fodder for numerous conspiracy theories and sensational claims. Some assert that the telescope is part of a secret Vatican project to contact extraterrestrial life, or to monitor celestial events with apocalyptic significance. These theories often draw connections between the telescope's name, biblical symbolism, and alleged hidden prophecies or occult practices within the Church. Theories abound regarding the Vatican's supposed role in esoteric knowledge and secret surveillance of cosmic phenomena, fueled by public mistrust of religious institutions and fascination with conspiracy narratives. While these claims lack substantiation and are dismissed by both scientists and church officials, they reflect broader cultural anxieties about the unknown and the intersection of power, faith, and technology. Environmental and ethical concerns surrounding the telescope's construction have been a significant aspect of the controversy. The building of observatories on Mount Graham faced opposition not only from indigenous groups, but also from environmentalists worried about habitat destruction and the impact on endangered species. The Mount Graham red squirrel, found only in this region, became a symbol of the struggle between development and conservation. Legal battles delayed construction for years, involving complex negotiations between federal agencies, religious institutions, and Native American tribes. The resolution allowed limited operation with ongoing monitoring and conservation efforts, yet the conflict highlighted competing values and priorities in scientific progress. This case has become a precedent in discussions of environmental ethics, cultural preservation, and the responsibilities of institutions operating on contested lands. The telescope's scientific achievements have been substantial despite the controversies. It has contributed valuable data to the field of extragalactic astronomy, helping to map the distribution of galaxies, study their formation and evolution, and probe the nature of dark matter and dark energy. Its high-resolution infrared imaging complements other observatories, providing insights into phenomena hidden from optical telescopes. The Vatican Observatory's role in promoting scientific education and dialogue further enhances the significance of the Lucifer Telescope project. By fostering cooperation among scientists from different cultural and religious backgrounds, the project exemplifies the potential for science to bridge divides and expand human understanding. The name Lucifer was officially changed in 2010 to Lucifer Becoming Lucy, the large binocular telescope utility with camera and integral field unit, in an effort to address public sensitivities, yet the legacy of the original name persists in popular discourse and media coverage. The change was an acknowledgement of the symbolic weight names carry and the impact on community relations and perceptions. Despite the rebranding, the initial choice of the acronym and the debates it sparked remain a case study in how scientific endeavours intersect with cultural and religious symbolism, influencing public engagement with science. Astronomers and Vatican officials have publicly addressed the telescope's name controversy, emphasising the scientific purpose and rejecting interpretations linking the project to sinister or occult motives. Statements highlight the Vatican's historical patronage of astronomy and commitment to the pursuit of knowledge as compatible with faith. This dialogue exemplifies ongoing efforts to demystify science and foster transparency in the context of religious institutions engaging in modern research. It also illustrates the challenges faced when scientific projects operate within complex social, cultural, and political landscapes. The Mount Graham Observatory Complex, which includes the Vatican's Lucy Eye telescope, as well as other international instruments, represents a microcosm of contemporary scientific research, global, collaborative, and multifaceted. The presence of the Vatican Observatory on US soil demonstrates the international nature of astronomy and the shared human interest in exploring the cosmos. The debates around the Lucifer telescope have brought attention not only to the science conducted, but also to broader issues concerning the stewardship of sacred and environmental sites, the integration of diverse worldviews, and the role of science in society. The controversy over the Lucifer telescope continues to serve as a touchstone in discussions about the relationship between religion and science. It challenges assumptions that these domains are inherently opposed and instead highlights their complex, sometimes contentious, but ultimately intertwined histories. The Vatican Observatory's active role in astrophysical research represents an ongoing dialogue about how faith traditions engage with empirical knowledge and the mysteries of the universe. This engagement invites reflection on the nature of truth, the limits of human understanding, and the shared quest for meaning that transcends disciplinary boundaries. In exploring the mystery and controversy surrounding the Vatican Observatory's Lucifer telescope, one encounters a rich narrative of scientific ambition, cultural conflict, symbolic resonance, and human curiosity. The story encapsulates many of the tensions and possibilities that arise when modern technology meets ancient traditions, when the search for cosmic knowledge unfolds on lands sacred to indigenous peoples, and when names and symbols evoke powerful emotional and cultural responses. The telescope's journey from inception to operation offers insights into the challenges and opportunities of conducting cutting-edge science in a diverse and interconnected world. The sea serpent sightings. The phenomenon of sea serpent sightings has persisted through centuries, captivating the imagination of sailors, scientists, and storytellers alike, and standing as one of the most enduring and enigmatic maritime mysteries in history. Accounts of enormous serpent-like creatures lurking beneath the ocean's surface date back to ancient times, with early explorers and fishermen recounting encounters with massive, elongated beasts displaying serpentine movements, glistening scales, and formidable size far beyond any known marine animal. These reports, often delivered with a mixture of fear, awe, and fascination, describe creatures that defy classification within conventional marine biology, igniting debates about the existence of unknown sea monsters, the limits of oceanic biodiversity, and the role of folklore in shaping human perceptions of the sea. The sea serpent mystery weaves together a complex tapestry of eyewitness testimonies, historical records, cryptozoological speculation, and scientific inquiry, remaining unresolved and continuously evolving as new sightings and interpretations emerge across the world's oceans. Historically, sea serpent reports have been documented in a wide range of geographic locations, from the cold, stormy waters of the North Atlantic to the tropical expanses of the South Pacific, suggesting a global phenomenon rather than isolated regional folklore. Early records from Norse sagas, ancient Greek texts, and medieval chronicles recount terrifying encounters with gigantic serpents attacking ships, coiling around masts, or surfacing unexpectedly near coastal communities. Such creatures were often depicted as harbingers of disaster, symbols of chaos and the unknown forces lurking in the depths. In more recent centuries, as maritime exploration expanded, the frequency of sea serpent sightings increased, with ship captains, naval officers, and commercial fishermen providing detailed descriptions of creatures that seem to exceed known marine species in length and morphology. These accounts often emphasize the serpentine body shape, long necks, and undulating movements reminiscent of snakes or dragons, sometimes combined with features such as fins, humps, or bioluminescent markings, painting a picture of mysterious leviathans roaming the ocean's depths. Eyewitness reports from the 19th and 20th centuries provide some of the most compelling and well-documented sea serpent cases. For instance, in 1848, the crew of the British Royal Navy ship HMS Daedalus reported seeing a long, dark, snake-like creature near the Cape of Good Hope, estimated to be over 60 meters in length. The creature reportedly moved swiftly across the water, leaving a turbulent wake and displaying a series of humps or ridges along its back. Similar sightings have been recorded by commercial vessels and whalers operating in the North Atlantic, with descriptions matching those of enormous serpentine animals with undulating movements. These reports were often corroborated by multiple observers, including trained sailors and officers, lending credibility to the accounts. In the early 20th century, the Norwegian ship Voringen encountered a sea serpent off the coast of Iceland, with witnesses describing a creature with a long neck and a head resembling that of a horse, features reminiscent of legendary sea dragons. Photographs and sketches accompanied some of these reports, though the quality and authenticity of such evidence vary widely. Scientific efforts to identify and explain sea serpent sightings have evolved alongside advances in marine biology, oceanography, and taxonomy. Initial skepticism led many scientists to dismiss reports as misidentifications of known animals such as whales, giant squids, oarfish, or large schools of fish creating optical illusions. Whales, particularly the elongated bodies of sperm whales and their distinctive surfacing behaviour, can sometimes be mistaken for serpentine creatures, especially from a distance or in poor visibility. Oarfish, deep-sea fish known for their ribbon-like bodies that can reach lengths of up to 11 metres, have been proposed as a natural basis for some sea serpent reports, as their rare surface appearances and undulating swimming style resemble descriptions of sea serpents. Similarly, giant squids with their long tentacles and elusive nature may account for certain sightings. However, while such identifications explain some reports, many sea serpent accounts describe sizes, behaviours, or physical characteristics that do not align neatly with known species, sustaining the mystery. The challenges of oceanic observation contribute significantly to the persistence of the sea serpent enigma. The vastness and depth of the world's oceans create conditions where rare or unknown species could exist undiscovered. Deep-sea environments, poorly explored even in the modern era, harbour myriad species yet to be identified by science. It is conceivable that large, elusive creatures inhabit these realms, surfacing only rarely or under specific circumstances, contributing to sporadic sightings. The difficulty of obtaining clear visual evidence, coupled with the fleeting nature of such encounters, hampers scientific validation. Advances in underwater imaging, deep-sea exploration vehicles, and environmental DNA sampling have expanded knowledge of marine biodiversity, but have yet to conclusively confirm the existence of sea serpents as described in historical accounts. Psychological and perceptual factors also influence sea serpent reports. The human tendency to recognize patterns, shapes, and familiar forms in ambiguous stimuli, known as pareidolia, can lead to misinterpretations of natural phenomena such as wave formations, floating debris, or groups of marine animals. Stress, fatigue, and the isolating conditions experienced by sailors can further affect perception and memory. The power of expectation and cultural narratives can shape eyewitness accounts, with prior knowledge of sea serpent legends influencing the interpretation of ambiguous observations. Nonetheless, the consistency of certain physical descriptions across time and cultures suggests that at least some reports may be based on real encounters with unidentified animals. The cultural significance of sea serpents transcends their physical mystery, embodying symbolic and mythological meanings in numerous societies. Across continents, sea serpents have been featured in folklore, religious texts, and artistic representations as embodiments of the chaotic and mysterious forces of nature. In Norse mythology, the Midgard serpent encircles the world, representing both destruction and renewal. In East Asian cultures, dragon-like sea creatures symbolize power, wisdom, and protection. These cultural narratives reflect humanity's attempts to understand and personify the awe-inspiring and often frightening aspects of the sea. The sea serpent mystery thus operates at multiple levels, intertwining physical reality with symbolic meaning and shaping human relationships with the ocean. Modern cryptozoology, the study of unknown or hidden animals, has embraced the sea serpent phenomenon as a focal point of inquiry and speculation. Cryptozoologists argue that sea serpents may represent undiscovered species or surviving relics of prehistoric marine reptiles, such as plesiosaurs, that somehow evaded extinction. While mainstream science regards these claims with skepticism due to lack of empirical evidence, the ongoing discovery of new marine species and the vast unexplored ocean depths keep the door open to the possibility. The search for sea serpents involves analysing eyewitness reports, reviewing historical data, and conducting targeted expeditions to regions with frequent sightings. Despite numerous attempts, conclusive proof remains elusive, and the sea serpent retains its place as a tantalising mystery. Environmental changes and human impacts on the oceans add another dimension to the sea serpent mystery. As climate change alters sea temperatures, currents, and ecosystems, marine species may shift their ranges, potentially increasing encounters with previously rare or hidden creatures. Pollution, overfishing, and habitat destruction also affect marine life, sometimes leading to unusual animal behaviour or appearances. These dynamic conditions may influence the frequency and nature of sea serpent sightings, complicating efforts to interpret and validate reports. Understanding the interplay between environmental factors and reported phenomena is essential for a comprehensive analysis of the mystery. Scientific expeditions have occasionally yielded intriguing but inconclusive evidence related to sea serpents. Underwater cameras and sonar scans have captured large, moving shapes in the ocean that defy immediate identification, sparking speculation and excitement. Some of these images show elongated, undulating forms, consistent with descriptions of sea serpents, though poor resolution and lack of corroborating data limit their conclusiveness. Advances in genetic analysis, particularly environmental DNA sampling, offer promising new methods for detecting elusive marine species by analysing genetic material shed into the water. These techniques may one day provide more definitive answers about the presence or absence of large, unknown marine animals corresponding to sea serpent descriptions. The enduring allure of the sea serpent mystery lies in its fusion of science, myth, and human curiosity. It challenges the boundaries of knowledge, inviting exploration into the unknown depths where ancient legends might intersect with undiscovered realities. The sea serpent serves as a symbol of the ocean's vastness, its capacity to surprise and mystify, and humanity's enduring quest to comprehend the natural world. Each sighting adds a piece to the puzzle, weaving a narrative that spans cultures and centuries, blending the tangible with the intangible. The mystery also highlights the complexities inherent in studying elusive phenomena that exist at the margins of scientific understanding. It underscores the need for rigorous observation, open-minded inquiry, and the integration of diverse perspectives, from eyewitness testimony to advanced technology, in unravelling enigmas that resist easy explanation. The sea serpent story encourages a humility before nature's mysteries and a recognition of the limitations of human perception and knowledge. The 1908 Tunguska event and its oceanic connections. The 1908 Tunguska event remains one of the most extraordinary and puzzling phenomena in modern scientific history, an explosive occurrence that devastated a remote region of Siberia and has since sparked a myriad of theories linking it to broader global and oceanic mysteries. On the morning of June 30th, 1908, an immense explosion occurred over the Tunguska region near the Podkamennaya-Tunguska River, levelling an estimated 2,000 square kilometres of forest and generating shockwaves detected as far away as Europe and Asia. The blast is generally attributed to the airburst of a meteoroid or comet fragment entering the Earth's atmosphere, releasing energy equivalent to approximately 10 to 15 megatons of TNT, hundreds of times more powerful than the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima. Despite the devastation, the explosion left no impact crater, as the object is believed to have detonated at an altitude of 5 to 10 kilometers. The Tunguska event has fascinated scientists, historians, and conspiracy theorists for over a century, not only for its sheer scale, but also for its potential implications, including speculations about its influence on oceanic phenomena and global environmental effects. The immediate aftermath of the Tunguska event was characterized by widespread destruction of forest and significant atmospheric disturbances. Trees were flattened in a radial pattern, scorch marks were evident, and eyewitness accounts from indigenous Evenki people described a fireball crossing the sky, followed by a tremendous blast and a shockwave that shattered windows hundreds of kilometers away. Subsequent scientific expeditions, beginning in the 1920s, aimed to investigate the site and collect data, confirming the absence of a conventional impact crater and lending credence to the airburst hypothesis. Researchers noted anomalous environmental changes, including altered soil chemistry, unusual tree growth patterns, and magnetic disturbances. These observations led to ongoing debates about the nature of the object, with theories ranging from a comet fragment to a small asteroid, or even speculative ideas such as a miniature black hole or alien spacecraft explosion. While the Tunguska event's terrestrial effects have been extensively studied, its potential connections to oceanic phenomena introduce a fascinating and less explored dimension of the mystery. Some researchers have proposed that the energy released during the explosion could have generated significant atmospheric and seismic waves, possibly influencing oceanic conditions far beyond Siberia. One hypothesis suggests that these waves might have propagated across the Arctic Ocean and adjacent seas, inducing changes in water temperatures, currents, or even triggering undersea geological events. Such disturbances could, in theory, lead to anomalous phenomena such as rogue waves, unusual tides, or disruptions to marine ecosystems. However, direct evidence linking the Tunguska explosion to specific oceanic effects remains limited and highly speculative, as the vast distances and complexity of ocean systems challenge the ability to draw firm causal connections. Geophysical data from the period indicate that the Tunguska explosion produced significant seismic activity, registering on instruments thousands of kilometers away. These seismic waves may have interacted with tectonic structures beneath nearby oceans, potentially triggering minor submarine earthquakes or affecting volcanic activity. The region of Siberia and the adjacent Arctic Ocean is tectonically active, containing fault lines and underwater ridges susceptible to stress changes induced by distant seismic events. Although the scale of the Tunguska blast was immense, whether it had sufficient energy to induce significant oceanic geological changes remains a topic of investigation. Some geologists argue that the event's impact on the ocean floor would have been negligible, while others suggest that subtle and localized effects might have occurred, with implications for regional marine environments. The Tunguska event's timing and its potential global atmospheric effects have also been considered in relation to oceanic anomalies. The explosion injected large amounts of dust and aerosols into the upper atmosphere, which may have influenced climate patterns and weather phenomena for months afterward. These atmospheric changes could have altered ocean-atmosphere interactions, affecting surface water temperatures, wind patterns, and precipitation in various regions, including oceans. Such changes might have contributed indirectly to unusual oceanic behaviour observed in the early 20th century, such as shifts in current strength or the appearance of bioluminescent blooms. However, attributing specific oceanic events to the Tunguska explosion requires careful analysis of complex climate data and remains speculative. Historical records from maritime and coastal communities around the North Pacific and Arctic Oceans in the years following the Tunguska event include reports of unusual sea conditions, mysterious lights, and unexpected weather phenomena. Some anecdotal accounts describe sudden, unexplained changes in sea level or the presence of strange glows beneath the water's surface. While these reports lack direct scientific verification, they fuel speculation about the broader environmental repercussions of the Tunguska explosion. The possibility that the event disrupted natural cycles or triggered chain reactions in atmospheric and oceanic systems continues to intrigue researchers investigating the interconnectedness of terrestrial and marine phenomena. The Tunguska event also intersects with a range of alternative theories that propose more unconventional explanations for the explosion and its effects. Some fringe hypotheses link the event to extraterrestrial activity or secret military experiments, suggesting that the blast may have involved advanced technology or interdimensional phenomena with implications beyond Earth's atmosphere and oceans. These theories often connect Tunguska to other global mysteries, including unusual oceanic disappearances, unexplained natural disasters, and anomalies in atmospheric physics. While lacking empirical support, these ideas reflect the broader cultural fascination with Tunguska as a symbol of the unknown and a potential harbinger of cosmic forces impacting Earth's environment. Scientific research continues to explore the Tunguska event and its potential ripple effects on global systems, including the oceans. Advances in modelling atmospheric explosions, seismic wave propagation, and ocean-atmosphere interactions provide tools to better understand the event's scope and impact. Studies using ice cores, tree rings, and sediment layers aim to reconstruct environmental conditions before and after 1908, offering insights into climatic changes that might relate to the explosion. Oceanographic research focusing on sediment disturbances and chemical signatures seeks evidence of underwater geological responses to seismic and atmospheric shocks. Although no definitive oceanic consequences have been conclusively tied to Tunguska, these interdisciplinary approaches contribute to a more comprehensive understanding of how large terrestrial events can influence Earth's interconnected systems. The enduring mystery of the Tunguska event and its possible oceanic connections highlights the limits of current scientific knowledge and the challenges of studying complex natural phenomena. The vast scale of the explosion, combined with the remoteness of the location and the limitations of early 20th century technology, constrain the availability of direct observational data. Moreover, the intricate interactions among Earth's atmosphere, lithosphere, and hydrosphere complicate efforts to isolate cause and effect relationships. As a result, researchers must rely on indirect evidence, modelling, and historical analysis to piece together the event's full implications, leaving room for uncertainty and debate. Culturally, the Tunguska event occupies a prominent place as a symbol of nature's unpredictable and sometimes devastating power. It serves as a reminder of Earth's vulnerability to extraterrestrial impacts and the potential consequences of such occurrences for global environments and human societies. The possibility that Tunguska's effects extended into the oceans adds to its mystique, inviting reflection on the interconnectedness of planetary systems and the far-reaching influence of cosmic events. The event has inspired numerous works of literature, film and scientific inquiry, cementing its status as a pivotal episode in humanity's encounter with the unknown. The exploration of Tunguska's oceanic links also touches on broader themes of planetary defense, disaster preparedness, and environmental resilience. Understanding how impact events influence not only land but also oceans and climate is vital for assessing risks and developing mitigation strategies. The Tunguska event provides a natural case study for examining these dynamics and improving our readiness for future cosmic hazards. Ongoing research in this area underscores the importance of multidisciplinary collaboration and technological innovation in addressing complex environmental challenges. The mystery of the Whistling Buoy stands as one of the more peculiar and haunting maritime enigmas, involving unexplained sounds emanating from oceanic navigational aids that have baffled sailors, scientists, and coastal communities alike. These buoys, designed primarily to mark shipping lanes, warn of hazards, and aid in marine navigation, are typically equipped with various mechanisms to emit audible signals such as bells, horns, or whistles intended to pierce through fog, storms, and the relentless roar of the sea. Yet, in certain locations, notably off the coasts of the United Kingdom and parts of Northern Europe, reports have emerged over the decades of buoys producing eerie, haunting whistles or melodic tones that defy explanation based on their mechanical design or the prevailing environmental conditions. The sounds, often described as haunting, plaintive, and at times inexplicably modulating, have been recorded and reported by fishermen, lighthouse keepers, passing sailors, and coastal residents. The phenomenon, sometimes referred to as singing buoys or whistling buoys, challenges understanding of acoustic physics, mechanical engineering, and oceanic environmental influences, transforming these seemingly mundane navigational tools into sources of mystery and intrigue. The origins of the whistling sounds are often difficult to pinpoint, largely because buoys operate in complex dynamic environments where a multitude of factors converge to influence sound propagation and generation. Buoys are typically anchored floating devices equipped with foghorns, bells, or whistles, activated either mechanically by wave motion or electronically, designed to emit repetitive, steady signals. However, in certain cases, the buoys have been heard emitting tones that are markedly different from their standard patterns, irregular sequences, variable pitches, and ethereal timbres that seem to fluctuate unpredictably. These anomalies have led some observers to speculate about mechanical malfunctions or environmental effects modifying the expected sounds. In some reported instances, the whistling continued even when the buoy's primary sound-producing apparatus was disabled or absent, adding to the mystery of the source and nature of the noises. One of the earliest and most well-documented cases occurred along the coast of Cornwall, England, where fishermen and lighthouse operators reported strange whistling and singing sounds emanating from buoys in foggy conditions during the mid-20th century. These sounds were often described as resembling human-like wails, or whistles that rose and fell in pitch and volume, persisting over extended periods. Efforts to investigate these phenomena revealed no obvious mechanical faults in the buoys themselves, prompting researchers to consider external influences such as wind, water flow, and atmospheric conditions. Acoustic specialists posited that the interaction between steady winds, water currents, and the buoy's structure could produce resonant vibrations akin to musical notes generated by wind instruments. These resonances could be amplified or modified by surrounding sea and air temperature gradients, humidity, and other meteorological factors, creating a complex and variable soundscape. Nonetheless, the specific qualities of the whistles, often haunting and seemingly purposeful, continue to elude comprehensive explanation. Similar reports have surfaced in other maritime regions, including the rocky coasts of Scotland, the rugged shores of Norway, and parts of the Pacific Northwest. In these areas, whistling buoys are sometimes associated with particular weather patterns, such as the arrival of fog banks or sudden shifts in wind direction, suggesting a link between environmental conditions and acoustic behaviour. Fishermen frequently recount tales of navigating through dense fog, guided or unnerved by the eerie whistles that seem to emanate not only from the buoys but also from other natural features such as caves or cliffs. These accounts contribute to the aura of mystery surrounding the phenomenon and have inspired local legends attributing the sounds to spirits, sea witches, or maritime ghosts. Such folklore reflects a broader human tendency to personify and mythologize inexplicable natural phenomena, weaving them into cultural narratives that resonate across generations. Scientific inquiry into the whistling buoy phenomenon has incorporated multidisciplinary approaches involving oceanographers, acoustic engineers, meteorologists, and marine biologists. Studies have sought to characterize the physical mechanisms underlying the sound production, the environmental factors influencing sound transmission, and the potential biological or ecological contributors. One key hypothesis centers on the aerodynamic and hydrodynamic interactions between wind, waves, and buoy components such as mooring lines, metal fittings, and hollow chambers. These interactions can induce vibrations at specific frequencies, leading to tonal sounds whose properties depend on the buoy's design and the surrounding conditions. Laboratory experiments and field measurements have confirmed that certain buoy configurations can produce sounds resembling whistles or hums, particularly when subjected to resonant airflow or water movement. However, these controlled studies often fail to replicate the full complexity and variability observed in real-world reports, indicating that additional factors are at play, Atmospheric phenomena also play a crucial role in modulating the soundscape of coastal environments, including the whistling buoy sounds. Temperature inversions, where warm air overlays cooler air near the surface, can create acoustic ducts that channel and amplify sounds over long distances. Such conditions can cause the apparent source of the whistle to seem displaced, contributing to the perception of ghostly or disembodied voices. Furthermore, humidity, wind shear and turbulence can affect the clarity, pitch and intensity of sounds, sometimes producing fluctuating or oscillating auditory effects. These meteorological influences complicate attempts to localize and identify the precise sources of the whistling, adding layers of mystery to the phenomenon. Marine biological factors have also been explored as potential contributors or modulators of the whistling sounds. Certain marine animals, such as whales, dolphins, and various fish species, produce a wide range of vocalizations and echolocation clicks that can propagate through water and air, sometimes mixing with human-made sounds to create unusual auditory experiences. While the distinctive tones of the whistling buoys are generally attributed to mechanical or environmental origins, overlapping biological sounds could influence the overall acoustic environment, enriching the complexity of the phenomenon. Some researchers speculate that unique local fauna or biological activity may interact with buoy sounds in unexpected ways, although direct evidence linking marine life to the whistling remains limited. The psychological dimension of the whistling buoy mystery is significant, as human perception of sound is subject to cognitive biases, expectation, and emotional context. In isolated maritime environments, where fog, darkness, and the vastness of the sea combine to heighten sensory sensitivity, ambiguous sounds may be interpreted as meaningful or supernatural. The association of whistling or singing voices with spirits or ghosts is a common motif in maritime folklore, reinforcing the cultural significance of the phenomenon. Such interpretations can influence eyewitness reports, shaping the descriptions and attributions of the sounds. Understanding these perceptual factors is essential for a balanced and comprehensive analysis of the mystery. Technological advances in acoustic monitoring and signal processing offer promising avenues for further investigation into the whistling buoy phenomenon. High-fidelity recording devices, underwater microphones, and remote sensing equipment enable detailed capture and analysis of sound patterns in situ. Computational models allow researchers to simulate the physical interactions of wind, water, and buoy structures, exploring conditions under which resonant sounds emerge. Field studies employing arrays of sensors can help differentiate between mechanical, environmental, and biological sound sources, enhancing the ability to identify and characterize the whistling sounds accurately. These tools contribute to unraveling the complexity of the acoustic environment in maritime settings, shedding light on the interplay of natural and artificial sound generation. Despite ongoing research, many aspects of the whistling buoy mystery remain unresolved, fueling continued curiosity and speculation. The variability of the sounds, their elusive sources, and the interplay of multiple influencing factors create a rich but challenging puzzle. The phenomenon exemplifies the broader category of maritime acoustic mysteries, where human technology intersects with dynamic natural environments to produce unexpected and sometimes unsettling sensory experiences. The whistling buoy serves as a symbol of the ocean's capacity to surprise and mystify, reminding us that even the most familiar instruments can become sources of wonder and question. The cultural impact of the whistling buoy sounds is reflected in maritime art, literature, and music, where these haunting tones inspire creativity and evoke the sea's mysterious qualities. Poems, songs, and stories draw on the auditory imagery of the whistles to explore themes of loneliness, danger, and the unknown. Coastal communities often incorporate these sounds into their local identity and heritage, blending scientific curiosity with tradition and narrative. The phenomenon thus transcends mere acoustic anomaly, becoming part of the cultural fabric that defines human relationships with the ocean. The mystery also raises important questions about the maintenance, design, and operation of maritime navigational aids. Understanding how and why buoys produce unexpected sounds has practical implications for maritime safety, environmental management, and engineering. Efforts to mitigate unwanted noise pollution, enhance signal reliability, and design buoys that minimize mechanical vibrations benefit from insights gained through studying the whistling phenomenon. Balancing functional requirements with environmental and community considerations remains a key challenge for maritime authorities. From an environmental perspective, the acoustic characteristics of buoys and their interaction with marine ecosystems deserve attention. Sound plays a critical role in marine animal behavior, communication and navigation, and anthropogenic noises can have significant ecological effects. Investigating the nature of whistling sounds associated with buoys contributes to broader understanding of underwater and surface acoustic environments, informing conservation and management strategies. The intersection of technology, nature, and human perception, embodied in the whistling buoy mystery, highlights the complexity of managing marine soundscapes sustainably. The whistling buoy phenomenon also illustrates the broader theme of how technology interacts with natural forces in unpredictable ways. The interplay of mechanical design, environmental conditions, and human observation creates scenarios where ordinary objects assume extraordinary qualities. Such instances challenge assumptions about control and predictability, encouraging humility and openness in scientific and engineering endeavours. The mystery encourages continuous observation, adaptation, and inquiry, reflecting the dynamic relationship between humans and the natural world. The vanishing of the USS Cyclops. The disappearance of the USS Cyclops in March 1918 remains one of the most baffling and tragic maritime mysteries of the 20th century, marking the largest non-combat loss of life in US Navy history and leaving a legacy steeped in speculation, unanswered questions, and profound mystery. The USS Cyclops was a Proteus-class collier, a massive coal transport ship commissioned by the US Navy during World War I to supply coal and fuel to naval vessels operating in the Atlantic. Measuring nearly 542 feet in length and with a gross tonnage of approximately 19,000, the Cyclops was one of the largest ships in the Navy's auxiliary fleet at the time. On February 16, 1918, she departed the port of Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, bound for Baltimore, Maryland, carrying a crew of 309 and a cargo of manganese ore, a crucial mineral for steel production and wartime manufacturing. Despite the ship's size and capability, the Cyclops vanished without a trace somewhere between Barbados and the Chesapeake Bay, sparking an extensive search and a wave of theories attempting to explain her sudden disappearance. The USS Cyclops' last confirmed communication was a routine message sent on March 4, 1918, indicating normal operations. After this, no distress signals, wreckage, or survivors were ever found, despite the massive search operation involving numerous naval and commercial vessels scouring the Atlantic Ocean. The vastness of the area where the ship disappeared, coupled with the depth of the ocean and the chaotic conditions of wartime shipping, hampered rescue efforts and complicated attempts to locate the vessel or explain its fate. The absence of any debris or indication of the ship's final moments contributed to the development of the Cyclops mystery, which has since become a defining case in the lore of maritime disappearances and Bermuda Triangle phenomena. Numerous factors have been proposed to account for the USS Cyclops' disappearance, ranging from natural disasters and structural failure to sabotage and supernatural explanations. One of the most widely accepted hypotheses centers on the ship's cargo and potential overloading. The manganese ore the Cyclops was carrying was significantly denser and heavier than the coal the ship was designed to transport, raising concerns about the vessel's stability and structural integrity. The ship's design was optimized for carrying lighter coal, and loading it with heavy ore may have compromised her seaworthiness. Some experts argue that the stress caused by the dense cargo could have led to catastrophic structural failure, possibly breaking the ship apart during rough seas. This hypothesis is supported by reports of other vessels experiencing similar difficulties when overloaded or improperly balanced, although direct evidence linking this to the Cyclops' fate remains absent. Weather conditions during the period of the ship's disappearance were also considered a contributing factor. The Atlantic Ocean in early March can be prone to violent storms, including nor'easters and hurricanes, which produce high winds, large waves, and dangerous seas. The Cyclops' last known position placed her within reach of several significant weather systems that could have overwhelmed even a large vessel. Survivors of other ships caught in such storms recount the immense power of the waves and the challenges of maintaining control. A sudden and severe storm could have capsized or damaged the Cyclops, especially if combined with structural weaknesses caused by overloading or maintenance issues. However, No eyewitness accounts or debris have confirmed this scenario, and weather reports from the time are inconclusive. Mechanical failure and human error also figure prominently among theories explaining the Cyclops' loss. The ship had a history of mechanical problems and was known to be difficult to handle. Engine failures, navigational mistakes, or miscommunications could have contributed to the ship's demise. Wartime pressures and the need to maintain supply lines often meant ships were operated under strenuous conditions, with crews facing fatigue and limited resources. The complexity of managing a large vessel loaded with heavy cargo across a challenging ocean environment introduced multiple points of vulnerability. While mechanical and operational issues alone may not explain the total disappearance, they likely played a role in any sequence of events leading to the ship's sinking. Speculative theories involving sabotage or enemy action gained traction during World War I when German U-boats actively targeted Allied shipping. The Cyclops sailed in an area known for submarine activity, leading some to suggest that she might have been torpedoed or sunk by a mine. However, no German naval records indicate an attack on the Cyclops, and the absence of distress signals or debris contradicts typical wartime sinkings. Additionally, the ship was unarmed and operated as a non-combatant, which may have reduced the likelihood of intentional targeting. Some conspiracy theories suggest secret sabotage or cover-up efforts to hide the circumstances of the loss, but these claims remain unsubstantiated. The Bermuda Triangle, a region infamous for unexplained disappearances, has often been linked to the Cyclops mystery. The ship's disappearance falls within the geographic area loosely defined as the Bermuda Triangle, and the case has become one of the most cited examples in discussions about paranormal or supernatural explanations involving the region. Stories of compass malfunctions, magnetic anomalies, and strange weather phenomena associated with the Bermuda Triangle have fueled speculation that the Cyclops was a victim of these mysterious forces. While scientific investigations have generally found no empirical support for paranormal explanations, the enduring popularity of these theories highlights the human fascination with the unknown and the desire to find extraordinary causes for unexplained events. The human cost of the Cyclops tragedy is profound. The loss of 309 crew members, including officers and enlisted men, represents the single largest non-combat loss in US Navy history, a somber reminder of the dangers faced by those who serve at sea even in times of peace. Families and communities were left without closure, as the absence of survivors or wreckage denied them the opportunity to understand or mourn fully. The Navy commemorated the crew's sacrifice, and their story remains part of naval heritage and history. The tragedy also spurred improvements in ship design, safety protocols, and maritime communication to prevent similar losses. Over the years, efforts to locate the wreck of the USS Cyclops have been undertaken by various organizations and enthusiasts, utilizing advances in underwater exploration technologies. Sonar mapping, remotely operated vehicles, and deep-sea submersibles have been deployed in searches of likely areas based on historical records and oceanographic data. Despite these efforts, no conclusive identification of the Cyclops wreck has been made, and the ship's final resting place remains unknown. The depth and vastness of the Atlantic Ocean, combined with sediment movement and biological activity, complicate the preservation and discovery of wreck sites. The mystery of the ship's disappearance endures as a challenge to marine archaeology and oceanography. The Cyclops case has had a lasting impact on maritime safety and policy. It highlighted vulnerabilities in naval logistics and ship operation during wartime, emphasizing the need for rigorous cargo handling, maintenance, and crew training. The incident influenced the development of more robust naval auxiliary vessels and the implementation of improved tracking and communication systems. Lessons learned from the tragedy contributed to enhancing the survivability and reliability of supply chains critical to naval operations. In popular culture, the USS Cyclops has become emblematic of the dangers of the sea and the mysteries that remain beneath its surface. The ship's disappearance has inspired numerous books, documentaries, and fictional accounts, often intertwining historical fact with speculation and myth. The case exemplifies the human tendency to seek explanations for tragedy that range from scientific to supernatural, reflecting broader themes of uncertainty, loss, and the limits of human knowledge. The Cyclops story continues to captivate public imagination as a symbol of the ocean's vast, unpredictable power and the enduring mystery of vanished vessels. In examining the disappearance of the USS Cyclops, it is essential to consider the complex interplay of natural, mechanical, and human factors that likely contributed to the tragedy. The ship's cargo, design limitations, environmental conditions, and operational pressures combine to create a scenario fraught with risk. The absence of definitive evidence means that any reconstruction of events must remain tentative and open to revision. The mystery challenges investigators to balance empirical inquiry with the recognition of inherent uncertainties in maritime history.